Good news, everyone! Talking Futurama is coming back for Talking Futurama Season 2, Part 2.
Fresher than a summer ham, this podcast comes every Friday. And if you sign up at the $5 level at patreon.com/TalkingSimpsons, you can hear each episode as it goes live.
That's right. Sign up today at patreon.com/TalkingSimpsons for $5 to hear Talking Futurama every Friday throughout the rest of 2020 and also all the previous episodes we've done so far.
So head over to patreon.com/TalkingSimpsons now, or we're going to clamp you.
Shut up and take my money!
Cartoons from present in the past. Every week will be an animated bash. What a cartoon! What a cartoon! Maybe a short but mostly shows. We'll talk, we'll analyze, exploring as we go. What a cartoon! What a cartoon! What a cartoon!
Hello, everybody, and welcome to What a Cartoon, where all of our barn dances are confusingly held in the malt shop. I am one of your hosts, the owner of a real talking animal, Bob Mackey, and this is an audio exploration of every cartoon ever. Who is here with me today?
Jinkies, I'm Henry Gilbert, and I can't see a thing without my glasses.
That's very true. And who do we have on the line?
I am Kris Dobbins, and I am on a strict squirrel-free diet.
Oh, very good. And today's episode is the Scooby-Doo Where Are You episode. Jeepers, it's the Creeper.
And I can hardly wait to get my hands on the buffet table. Just think, like real chocolate-covered corn on the cob.
Boy, Shaggy would be in hell now. Buffets have been outlawed.
Oh, God, you're right.
They're a real health hazard. But yes, joining us today is Kris Dobbins, and they are a character designer and animator for BuzzFeed, and you are on a lot of Matt J's Cartoons 101 podcasts.
Yes, we've been recording them during quarantine, so we've just been covering, we did a whole series on non-Disney Renaissance 90s animated movies. So, I did an episode where I talked about Comet and Moomin Land. We talked about, Rover Dangerfield and stuff like that, and now we're doing live-action adaptations of cartoons and comic strips.
You have made me want to seek out Rover Dangerfield now and watch it. It sounds charming.
It's a lot of fun.
I haven't watched it since childhood, so and I think it was probably my first interaction with Rodney Dangerfield, the man, before that.
Wow.
And also, Kris, you, not just a professional artist, but also a big Scooby fan as well.
Yes.
Did you grow up watching Scooby-Doo?
Yeah, I grew up watching classic Scooby-Doo on Cartoon Network and probably Boomerang and stuff like that because my mom was also a really big fan of Scooby-Doo growing up. So I just grew up with all different types of Scooby-Doo, the direct-to-video stuff, the TV shows, everything like that.
Yeah, that's funny because my mom did not like Scooby-Doo. She thought it was stupid and hated the repetitive.
More like Stoopy-Doo. I have to workshop that. I'm sorry.
You were different generations, Bob and I, and you. For me growing up for Scooby-Doo, it was just the air. It was just everywhere.
Yes.
But every version of Scooby was equal to me because on, say, USA Cartoon Express or in reruns on syndication, every Scooby-Doo just kind of mixed together. The original show was shown right next to episodes of the Scooby-Doo show and 13 Ghosts of Scooby-Doo. So it just all became kind of the same to me.
Yeah, same here. I remember being a kid and watching endless reruns of Hanna-Barbera stuff, and I would be well, I've seen every Flintstones, I know that, but it felt like there was just this endless chasm of Scooby content. And I actually didn't like the show very much, but I would still watch it. I think it's because my sister really liked it and we don't get along, but also I think it's because it was so formulaic, I would just get frustrated, and I also wanted the monsters to be real. But unlike Henry and I, Kris, you grew up without the famine of Scooby content because in our childhood, A Pup Named Scooby-Doo was really the only new show for us. And I believe you did the research, Henry. Was 85 the last true Scooby-Doo show for a long time?
Yeah, well, and then came the secondary recreation of Scooby-Doo that came in the late 90s. But for our childhood, there were some Scooby specials in the mid 90s, but pretty much they just counted on reruns. And also Hanna-Barbera, I think that was when they were focusing more on original new do shows for Cartoon Network instead of working on Scooby stuff.
And I will say a big turning point for me was being a teenager, and that's when Zombie Island, the movie, came out. And the big thing with that was this time the monsters are real. And a friend and I rented that as a goof, and I was like, this is the first time I think the show has been like a quality show written at like a quality level. So I've been on board with Scooby since then, but it took until I was a teenager to come to terms with my dislike of Scooby-Doo.
Wow.
One, plus Bob and I also lived through Scooby only being ironic in our life. Like, there's so much like post-meta commentary. Like, what Pup Named Scooby-Doo deals with, it was doing it after 20 years of Scooby-Doo. And so the 90s were just a lot of like, hey, what does this mean? Is this character that? Like,
and most of Adult Swim was based on that kind of humor in the first few years.
But now I think we're so far beyond that. Like, it's a really interesting time for the Scooby franchise that we're just kind of post-modern on viewing Scooby-Doo.
Yeah, like when I was watching Scooby-Doo growing up, it was mainly classic Scooby, and then I would occasionally see stuff like 13 Ghosts, and I always saw reruns of Scooby-Doo and the Reluctant Werewolf, but I wasn't a fan of 80s Scooby-Doo because it was specifically just Scooby, Shaggy, and sometimes Daphne, and I always like to see the whole crew together.
Yeah. They slimmed it down a lot in those years, too.
I think for me, this series, the 2-season series, Scooby-Doo, Where Are You? That is the definitive Scooby, and I was going around on HBO Max and, like, you know, watching a few of the other ones, and I was like, I just remember the childhood ennui, hearing this, like, 70s variety show music. Like, I prefer the beach party version of Scooby-Doo to, like, the 70s, like, Scooby-Doo.
Yes.
I hate that.
That's exactly how I feel.
Yeah, I think this original series has the most charm to it, and it's kind of what they've been like chasing ever since. And even in my like favorite reboots or new stories in Scooby, and when I say new, I mean 1999's Zombie Island or 98, but like also in Mystery Incorporated, that one, it so gets back to their roots, and like so many of the rules they set up for the characters in that show, I then see in all this original series. I'm like, oh yeah, that's where this character comes from. Like, Freddy does create a lot of traps in this show, doesn't he? And also, like, Velma and Shaggy get a lot of scenes together in these, more than I thought. So them being a couple at the start of Mystery Incorporated seems less out of place.
Not to talk too much about outside of this series, but I feel like it became a much stronger franchise or brand when they started making Freddy and Daphne into characters, because they're basically interchangeable. Like, I was looking at the descriptors of their personalities, and they were just so nondescript. It's like Freddy is the leader and Daphne is danger prone. So in Velma, it kind of has a little more, but obviously Shaggy's the strongest personality. Like, when you're writing a character, it's like you have to know what they want, and we always know what Shaggy wants.
Very much so.
Yeah,
no, I think Daphne and Freddy, they're written as the white bread leads of any 60s horror film. So, and those characters that they're ripping off, they don't have character. Like, they're average kid.
And A Pup Named Scooby-Doo was the first where it was like Freddy is very dense and Daphne is kind of like a stuck-up rich kid. I think that was their personalities they went with there.
I know a lot of people will knock on Be Cool Scooby-Doo, but I like what they do with Daphne in that show, because they'll constantly give her, like, in every episode, she's just trying to find out what her thing is. So in the first episode, she loves sock puppets, and like the second episode, she's in love with this murder mystery party. I really like that.
Oh, that's fun. The visual style of it just in a screenshot kind of made me not want to try it, but all I keep hearing about it is good stuff. And
it's really funny, and even with the visual style, I think the animation in it is really nice.
But why don't we lay some groundwork for the history of Scooby and the gang here and how it came to be. And this is, I'm going to have to squeeze together a little history here just to set it all up. But why don't we start with William Hanna and Joseph Barbera? Who are these guys? But the real star of this is Iwao Takamoto, but I'll get to him in a
He
sec.
sure is.
He sure. Sorry, it's going to be hard to resist not doing the impression of Hanna and Barbera that our friends on Podcast The Ride did.
Yeah. It sure is. That's it.
Sure are.
We can't do it anymore.
We will repeat that a lot in this apartment as well.
But William Hanna and Joseph Barbera, I think because of their later history, are often overlooked as their accomplishments in the golden age of animation, because as co-directors on shorts at MGM, they won 7 Oscars and with their Tom and Jerry cartoons, defined cat and mouse violence from then on. Like, still, it's iconic. Their original shorts are like mostly timeless.
Yeah. So much better than the Chuck Jones Tom and Jerry's.
Oh yeah. Chuck Jones is a genius, but he didn't get them. And well, it also, like, they created so many great cartoons at MGM. They even like would oversee productions later in the 50s at MGM. Like, they apparently oversaw some of the last like Tex Avery Droopy Tunes in the 50s. And they also they animated cartoons to dance with Gene Kelly in classic MGM musicals. Like,
I believe Stewie was the one who did that.
I hate that. I hate that so much. But anyway, Hanna-Barbera had a very close working relationship. According to some accounts, they weren't the closest of friends, but they pretty much worked together perfectly because, as I read in Takamoto's book, is that Barbera handled like pre and post production, like a lot of the planning, the voice recording, working with the networks, while Hanna oversaw much of the animation production. Like, he was the main animation guy actually getting the footage to exist. And that was set late in their MGM time. But it comes to the late 50s. MGM, like many movie studios, is realizing, well, we have television now, and now we have 20 years of a back catalog of shorts that we can just replay over and over again. We don't need to make new shorts, they decide. So they shutter their shorts program, leaving many animators adrift, including Hanna-Barbera. But that's when TV would end up saving them, as Hanna-Barbera, with some investment from Columbia Pictures' Screen Gems production company, they entered the new field of TV animation, which was like, basically, TV animation was a slideshow. Like, if you...
It was like Clutch Cargo,
the that rabbit cartoon,
Crusader Rabbit,
yeah, which, like, some of the best folks before Hanna-Barbera at getting anything entertaining out of TV were folks like Jay Ward, who realized, like, well, good writing and good voice acting can cover for 8 frames per minute of animation.
And I believe it was all propped up by the cereal corporations, right?
Yes, very much so.
They funded so much early kids TV and made us all believe breakfast is so important.
And also, like, I mean, that was how it was with every program in the 50s. You needed a sponsor, not just a network for that stuff. So William Hanna and Joseph Barbera, they're heading into television production, and they are learning very quickly that it is much cheaper than shorts. You have to make things way cheaper. And so they pioneer a lot of the techniques of limited animation, or as they prefer to call it, planned animation, because it doesn't have as many negative connotations. And that means designs for characters that are much simpler, that move less. If you ever are going to do more intricate animation, it has to be something you can repeat heavily. And then also, characters are designed with very clear division of parts, as in you have a collar around the neck, so you just trade out the head. You have a clear line on an arm, so you just animate an arm. Or even the muzzle, like, there has to be, that's why so many of their early characters, even humans like Ranger Smith, have a clear line around where their mouth is, so you can just replace that on a cell instead of the whole character. And so that all sounds really cheap and everything, and I'm sure they don't hold up, too well by today's standards. But if you compare like a Yogi Bear cartoon or a Huckleberry Hound cartoon to like Clutch Cargo or Terry Toons, way better. Like, they always were the best of US TV animation back then. And also, because of Hanna-Barbera's style, it meant one of the, perhaps the most important part of any of their productions are character designs, because those characters aren't going to be moving too much, so even at rest they need to be like interesting and funny and engaging. Like that, some of the most important people that worked at H&B were the character designers. So yeah, they worked on dozens of cartoons for kids, but also in 1960, they pioneered the first animated sitcom, The Flintstones, like, again, a huge deal, though Hanna-Barbera was also very notorious for closely following trends and being perhaps heavily influenced by things. That's how you end up with the Honeymooners becoming The Flintstones, Art Carney becoming Yogi Bear, Sergeant Bilko as Top Cat, Dagwood Dagwood and Blondie was the core for Jetsons. I had learned.
Oh, okay.
Recently.
That makes a lot of sense now. Okay.
And more than that. And also, though, on top of taking a lot from pop culture, they also relied heavily on prolific voice performers like Dawes Butler and Don Messick, like these guys who could just like do 800 voices, and they, again, keeping the money down. So that's Hanna-Barbera in a nutshell. If you listen to our Thundar podcast, we talked a lot about Joe Ruby and Ken Spears, but quick version is that these two were quickly rising stars in Hanna-Barbera. They were animators who turned editors who had joined up at Hanna-Barbera. Cartoon historian Mark Evanier said about Ruby Spears is that because they were editors, they hated overlapping dialogue because that's bad in editing. And so that's why they always had a rule on scripts like no overlapping dialogue. Characters all have to be separated. And they joined the expanding roster of Hanna-Barbera writers in the mid-60s, which is around when Hanna-Barbera was trying to diversify their lineup by doing a lot of action shows, drafting off the success of Marvel Comics. The Alex Toth-designed Herculoids and Space Ghost and Birdman and all those guys. So, all of that setup now takes me to the real star of this Scooby history, Iwao Takamoto, the late great animation legend who is the primary artist that defined Scooby and the gang. So, Iwao was the first son of Japanese immigrant parents, born in 1925 in Los Angeles. When he reached his teens, just as World War II was starting, he was sadly placed, like many Japanese Americans, into quote-unquote internment camps, but by definition, they are concentration camps. Like the use of the term internment camps, I think really tries to take away some level of responsibility from what America did in those cases. It's a shameful part of American history, and Takamoto, one of just millions affected by it. They were prisons for ethnically Japanese people to be held because of racist suspicions and hostility.
And your property was taken away from you?
You lost everything. Yeah, it's just terrible. Like, and a lot of this I'm pulling from reading his book, by the way, his autobiography, which was released like right after he passed away in 2007. It's very informative. You learn a lot from it.
I read that too, and I think it's something that like every animation historian should own.
100%. Yeah, he covers so much history. He was in so many interesting places for most of his life. So right before he turns 20, 1945, his imprisonment ends a little before the war ends, and mostly without like self-taught, he has become an impressive enough artist that he is hired by Disney like just from a sketch pad. Like he tells the story of going to a five and dime, buying a sketchbook, and just like instead of a professional portfolio, just drawing stuff on legal paper. And when the Disney interviewers saw it, they're like, "You are hired." Like he was that good. And from 45 to about 59 or 60, Iwao worked at Disney, and he said it was, for being a Japanese American working at Disney, he said it was a pretty liberal atmosphere, more than he expected. He did note that he knew only 3 Jewish people he ever worked with, but that's all he would say on that. But he worked very closely with many of the 9 old men, Milt Kahl in particular. He has a ton of funny Milt Kahl stories in his book, and he quickly worked his way up from in-betweener over a decade to assistant animator. He never made it to lead animator at Disney, but he did get to assistant level animator. And through that, he just learned the craft of animation, and pretty quickly. He had invaluable skills, not just in layout and quality control, but also character design. For instance, in his book, he tells an interesting story. Milt Kahl is working on Lady for Lady and the Tramp, and something's just not coming together for him. And Takamoto suggests well, what if you fluffed up her ears so it looked more like a woman's hair? And Milt Kahl's like, okay, you know what? You figure it out. And so Takamoto gets placed on Lady's character design and quality control to make sure it all stays on model. And that also sets the tone for a career in designing characters that are both feminine and also iconic canines. Takamoto will be doing that for the rest of his career. So he animates on some stuff. He's designed some other stuff at Disney. But after working on Sleeping Beauty, Takamoto can see that Disney is winding down their theatrical production as well. This is 59, and he's seeing a lot of his friends getting pink slips and being like, everybody's getting cut around here. He's fearful he's going to get laid off while he's working on 101 Dalmatians. So he's hearing from ex-Disney folks who joined the former MGM folks at Hanna-Barbera Studio that, hey, we're making a lot more money working on this TV stuff, and you're definitely not going to get laid off. So Takamoto's like, all right, I'm out of here. And so he leaves in 1961 to join Hanna-Barbera Studios. And from the description of what he was doing in the 60s, he's kind of a jack of all trades. He's working on boards, he's working on layouts, doing some animation if needed, and also a lot of character designs, though they already had like great character designers at Hanna-Barbera who worked on all these classic shows, but Takamoto then joined in on that. As he recalled it in his book, he felt he was kind of a bridge between Hanna and Barbera at the studio because those two didn't work too closely together. He said like Barbera would lean on Takamoto for help designing characters for pitches, while meanwhile Takamoto would also work a lot with Hanna on day-to-day creation of footage, and because they really counted on him like, hey, you worked in film, you can do this cheaper on TV, you know how. And Takamoto lists like some of his earliest standouts of character creations were the Great Gazoo.
Ooh.
He designed him. And also, there was a Cindy Bear in original Yogi Bear cartoons, but for the 64 Yogi movie, they asked him to fully redesign Cindy Bear and make her more feminine. So the Cindy Bear we all know, or I guess nobody knows Cindy Bear, but Yogi Bear's girlfriend, that's his design.
She's quite a looker. It's one of the few like female versions of male characters without a top.
Yes, yeah, she has.
By that I mean
nice
like a
little,
shirt.
Yeah, she has a cute little scarf though, which also probably helps with the that limited animation. But Minnie never wears a top, or Minnie didn't used to wear a top.
It's true.
Anyway.
They really cleaned up her act.
And also, he designed two classic dogs that, if it wasn't for Scooby-Doo, would be his most famous dogs he designed. He designed Astro, who's more than a little Scooby-Doo, is Astro for the Jetsons. And he also, for that same Yogi movie, designed a character named Mugger, who was a squat little dog who had a little laugh of like... and who did have a separate muzzle, but eventually, a few years later, when it came time to design characters for the Wacky Races, he's like, this Mugger guy's pretty funny. What if I just colored him a different color, and he's just the same guy? And so that is Muttley.
That's such a great design. I'm looking at it now.
And I believe he also did Dick Dastardly as well. So, yeah, Takamoto was integral to Hanna-Barbera's success. And he, in his book, talks about how he loved working there because he said it was just a free flow of things. He didn't know what he'd be asked to do next, and he felt it really excited him, creatively. He tells this really great story of how he was working in his office, and Barbera just comes in and says, hey, we're thinking of doing like Beverly Hillbillies, but with bears. Do you think you could do that real quick? I gotta fly to New York in 6 hours. And so he's like, okay, here's the Hillbilly Bears, boom. Or also told, hey, we want to do Laugh-In but with animals, and so the Banana Splits were born.
At this point,
could just be counted on for it.
We should reference Roger Meyer's testimony in court about how all cartoons are based on theft.
Yes, yeah, it's just the fact of matter. Yeah.
One of my favorite stories in the book is when he talks about Joe Barbera was in a meeting pitching Wacky Races to different execs and stuff. Mm-hmm. And they were saying, there's no female character in this. We need a woman. So Joe Barbera just leaves the meeting and goes up to Takamoto and says, hey, we need a girl right now. So he designs Penelope Pitstop, purposely making her as feminine as possible just to make sure they sell it.
I know, the most, almost as a point of protest to be like, you want a girl? I'll make the most feminine girl ever. She's got a parasol. Everything's pink and purple. Her car has eyelashes. And he gives it to Barbera, and Barbera's like, yeah, awesome, great. And she'd be so popular, she'd get her own spin-off the next season. That's how...
I love her design so much.
I love Penelope Pitstop. All the Wacky Racers are the greatest. I love all of them. So that takes us to early 1969. U.S. Saturday morning cartoons are in a state of flux. As we talked about in the Thundar episode, Ruby and Spears worked on Space Ghost and Birdman, but networks were getting fearful that parents were upset about the violence in these shows. They're like, oh, these are too scary.
That is so quaint, as we are how many years into Vietnam?
Yes.
Or are we in Vietnam yet?
Oh, we're in Vietnam.
Okay, yeah. Sorry. I know that my timelines are mixed up. It's like this Space Ghost is leading our children into a moral sewer.
That Inviso belt is telling kids the wrong lesson.
This brat guy cannot be Christian.
So at the networks, at the three big networks, their cartoons they're interested in, they don't want as much violence. Meanwhile, in 1968, at CBS, there is daytime programming overseen by executive Fred Silverman. He is a legend in television for a million reasons. He would be an executive for CBS, ABC, and NBC. Over a 20-year period, he was in charge of all three of them. He greenlit shows like Charlie's Angels, All in the Family, The Price is Right, Different Strokes, The Mary Tyler Moore Show, and all the spin-offs that came from that. Like, he didn't greenlight Happy Days, but he did greenlight all of the Happy Days spin-offs as well. Like that, Fred Silverman has far more influence than you know in the world of television. And that includes cartoons, because it's fall of 1968. Silverman on CBS has a new hit with Filmation's adaptation of The Archies, which takes the Archie Comics gang, all those classic teens. I love Jughead is one of my all-time favorite characters in like anything. I love Jughead. But get this, it's 5 teenagers and a dog who go on adventures as a band. Isn't that interesting?
What was their dog's name?
Hot Dog.
Okay, thought so.
A big old sheepdog called Hot Dog, who is owned by the guy who eats all the food, Jughead. So
I thought he was more of a burger boy.
well, his dog's a hot dog, yes. I mean, if you ask Jughead his favorite food, it would be burgers and a chocolate malt. But if you say, hey, here's a hot dog, he'll eat it too. Like he'll... And not only was the Archies show a hit, but so was their May 1969 single, Sugar Sugar. It was one of the biggest hits of the year. All the teens were buying these LPs. You couldn't keep it out of the hands of these teeny boppers.
Were they the original Gorillas with a Z?
Boy, I think the Monkees predate them, I think.
But I mean, the Monkees were real people at the same time, even though they were characters.
And I think, yeah, the Archies are the first cartoon characters to have a hit song, yeah. And so this leads to a call for more teenage hijinks in shows. Silverman wants similar shows from pretty much every company, and that includes Hanna-Barbera. Though this time, he didn't just want the teens to be, a band going on adventures. He wanted them to be a mystery team, partially influenced by Fred Silverman's childhood love of the radio drama I Love a Mystery, which is about a group of teens and no cute animal, but an annoying kid brother who goes along on these mysteries. So, with that assignment from Fred Silverman, Joseph Barbera tasks Ruby Spears with developing a series and Iwao Takamoto with designing the characters. Some say that it was the influence of the Archies that they were going to put a dog in the group, like, oh yeah, give him a dog. Though as Takamoto tells it in his book, they designed the teens originally, just 5 teens, and it was Barbera who said, hey, Johnny Quest has a sidekick dog, Bandit. What if we gave these guys a dog too? And it was Takamoto who suggested, well, what if it was a big dog instead of a little dog like Bandit on Johnny Quest? We ultimately went with a Great Dane, partially because in his book, Takamoto says a woman in the ink and paint department, Eve Imes, was also a breeder of Great Danes and could give him a lot of information on it.
Seems like one of the harder dogs to draw.
Yeah. Well, and Takamoto intentionally designed the dog against, he said he asked Eve for everything that defined a great version of a Great Dane, and he did everything different, including like, oh, you need straight hind legs? Well, he's got bowed legs. You need a strong chin? He's got a weak chin with like stubble on it and a curved back. He is meant to be an ugly dog. And that dog's name, Too Much. And he plays bongos in the band. And that's why we all love Too Much.
Too Much? Where are you?
But in development, Ruby Spears, once the dog took more of a center stage, they then decide to, instead of doing 5 teens like on Archie, they slim it down to 4 teens, which I think mainly just gets rid of the antagonistic teen. There's no Reggie in this group. All of the gang likes each other. There's no one stinker in the group like Reggie Mantle to cause problems like in the Archies. And of course, they can't just rip off the Archies and I Love a Mystery. They need to base characters on another popular sitcom of the 60s, The Many Loves of Dobie Gillis.
Our friend Drew Mackey has a show called Gayest Episode Ever, and he looked at the Dobie Gillis Scooby-Doo connection, and it was like an expose almost.
Yeah.
Just like, I had no idea. I knew Shaggy was Maynard G. Krebs from that show, but I had no idea there were so many other connections.
Yeah, it's every character. Like, Freddy is Dobie Gillis, Daphne is Thalia, Velma is Zelda. The only obvious one is Maynard G. Krebs, which in Takamoto's book, that's the only one of the group he's like, yeah, I was influenced by Maynard G. Krebs for Shaggy, but he doesn't mention the other ones. But yeah, listen to the Gayest Episode Ever about it to see the Velma's a lesbian jokes are more rooted in reality than you think, because the actress who played Zelda is and still with us. She is an out lesbian politician, like one of the first out politicians elected in local LA politics. So it's it's a very interesting story. You'll learn more about it there on Gayest Episode Ever. But yeah, it's just the many loves of Dobie Gillis. The Scooby-Doo gang would not exist if not for that. So first pitched as the Mystery Five. That was the name of it when there was no dog. Silverman wasn't into that, sent it back. Then they add a dog and they pitch it more in the horror style with like Universal monsters kind of in it. And Silverman dubbed that Who's Scared? Or Who's Scared? But then ultimately that was deemed as like, that's too scary for kids. You got to make this sillier. And even with too much in there. So, as Takamoto tells it in his book, he redesigned the dog once more, made it more attached to Shaggy. Ruby and Spears then decided, like, you know what? If we're going to have Universal monsters, remember all those Abbott and Costello meet the Frankenstein and all that stuff? That's what Shaggy and Scooby should be, and that lets them add more silly hijinks to this, horror mystery show that they've got. And a ton of comic relief for kids who might be bored by characters explaining clues to them. And so, how does that name Too Much change, though? Well, I've got 3 versions of this story here. As Fred Silverman always tells it, and I even watched like an archived interview. Fred Silverman passed away this year in January. But there was an archived interview with Silverman telling the story he told many times, which is, while developing Scooby-Doo, they just couldn't figure out the name for the character. He didn't like Too Much. He's on one of his frequent flights that go back and forth from Los Angeles and New York City. While on the flight, he hears the Frank Sinatra version of Strangers in the Night, which has him singing Scooby-Dooby-Doo. And that's where Silverman says he got the name from.
You don't want that guy after you.
Well, so as Takamoto tells it in his book, he's like, I don't want to call Fred Silverman a liar, but that's not how I remember it. And he says that he can't really remember where the name comes from, but he does attest that in the early 60s, in an unused production of Hanna-Barbera, there is development drawings of a character named Scooby. And he's like, so he thinks that's the culprit of it. Like that was just a name Hanna-Barbera knew of, like Scooby, that's a funny name. Let's call him that. But I found one more shocking discovery today that I'd never heard of before now. So we know that they're meant to rip off the Archies, or at least it's influenced by the Archies. What was the late 1968 hit single, though not as big a hit as Sugar Sugar, that precedes Sugar Sugar? Why, it is the song by the Archies, Feelin' So Good, parenthetical, Scooby-Doo.
What?
Yes.
Whoa.
I'll play you a little bit of it here.
You know I'd walk a mile for Scooby-Doo. Oh, my Scooby-Doo. I'd do what you want me to. Oh, my Scooby-Doo. You got my only head reeling all the time, feeling so good.
I can see the gang being chased by some sort of Frankenstein during that song.
Yeah, I was so shocked to see that because I read many articles on like, oh, where did the name Scooby-Doo come from? Nobody makes this connection. But I mean, you have to be like, I think, a power pop addict to even know this song exists. Like, I'd never heard of this song before.
I was also thinking something that could have made them greenlight Scooby. The name is just like Snoopy is very popular in the 60s as well. So
I feel like this just completely like shattered my like history knowledge of Scooby-Doo.
I couldn't believe it. Like, and again, this, according to the Wikipedia, this single came out in the late 68. Definitely would be when they're developing the Scooby-Doo show. So, and I mean, like, as far as trademarks go, I could see them going like, if this were true and this influenced it, they can't say that because then they could get sued or they'd be worried about legal liability. But, this is just making assumptions. But if you know they're influenced by the Archies and the songs that the Archies did, and their first song that only got to like 53 in the billboards but still was released as a single is a song about Scooby-Doo, like, it
sounds like they're literally singing about the dog we all know.
Yes. Yeah. So that was the shocking realization I made during this, but and it was just from looking up like, oh yeah, when did Sugar Sugar come out? And on the Wikipedia it lists like the single from the Archies before Sugar Sugar was this. I was like, what? So anyway, that was my shocking discovery.
I guess what makes it legally distinct is they spell Scooby with a K and not a C.
And it seems to represent something. SKOOBY. It's like it's dotted. Like,
Yeah.
it's like an acronym.
I think they're talking about the drugs.
But however the name was come up with, once they settled on Scooby-Doo, Silverman saw the character, saw the name, the final design. He's like, that's the star. This is the star of the show. You build this show around him, and you call it Scooby-Doo, Where Are You? Which would then have an exclamation point at the end, not a question mark, which Takamoto's like, what the hell? he doesn't understand it. Hanna-Barbera, they're overseeing it as they normally do. The head writers, though, are Ruby Spears. While Takamoto is creative producer. Mainly, he's the guy who came up with, overseeing the art, do these character designs all match? Does this all hook up? But the animation director on both seasons of Scooby-Doo was Charles Nick Nichols. He was animation director. He was another Disney vet who had worked alongside Takamoto at Disney in the Golden Age before moving to Hanna-Barbera. He is an Oscar winner, Nick Nichols. He worked on the first CinemaScope short, Toot, Whistle, Plunk, and Boom, which was really just Disney ripping off UPA. But it worked. He got him an Oscar.
Very famous short.
And Nichols and Takamoto would go on soon after this show to co-direct the feature Charlotte's Web. So Nick Nichols worked a lot with Takamoto. And the voice cast of this show, it would not be so unforgettable without the voice cast. This is one of the best voice casts of classic cartoons ever, I think. Central to it is Hanna-Barbera legend Don Messick, who did every single voice. He's a voice in pretty much every old thing. If it wasn't Dawes Butler, it was probably Don Messick doing a classic voice. He's voicing Scooby. It's the job he was born to play. He's a master of weird dog sounds. It's just a dog would sound like this.
I mean, we didn't talk about Scrappy-Doo, but he sucks. But I like he eventually took over and made his voice better because I went back and watched a Scrappy-Doo one. He's got the voice of a 53-year-old man. He's like, hey, Uncle Scooby, let me at him.
Don Messick, he was with us until the mid-90s, and just his Scooby is the classic Scooby. There's other folks, there's one guy really who does a really good imitation of Don Messick's Scooby, but Don Messick's the best. I could listen to his giggle as Scooby on a loop endlessly. Then we've got Casey Kasem, who at the time was already a staple of LA radio, though by the time the show premiered, he had not hosted his nationally broadcast radio show that made him very famous. And in between, he has small acting gigs, like a one-off appearance in this show or that show. And he was starting to get in voice acting. He thought he'd be cast as the leading man in the show. Instead, though, he's given the bumbling sidekick with a high voice and breezy delivery that would define Shaggy for decades. And yeah, Casey Kasem, back when he was alive, it was an easy trivia to be like, did you know that Casey Kasem's also Shaggy? What?
I remember he passed away 5 years ago or something like that. I was in an airport and eating before a flight, and Casey Kasem is on the in-store radio throwing the songs. I guess he recorded a bunch of stuff before he died just to play perpetually, so he's still DJing from beyond the grave.
Wow.
I think I remember listening to his stuff in the 90s, and it was just a package of this is just a bunch of oldies and I'll talk about them. I'm not talking about current music, so those could be played in perpetuity, those Casey Kasem hits. Then we got Frank Welker, a living legend of voice acting if there ever was one. He was cast in the show in his early 20s, which is why he's still been doing it for 50 years. He was already making a name for himself as a zany comedian in the LA area, known for being able to do the sound of a cat and a dog fighting each other at the same time. Though he also was surprised that he was cast as the very straightforward leading man of Freddy instead of a silly character. But once they hired him, he became the next Dawes Butler for H&B. He was in every single thing. Mark Evanier has this joke that he says, the way you cast in voice acting is you call 70 people and then you hire Frank Welker. And he is in everything. And I also do like that he's when Family Guy wants to do a joke about Scooby-Doo, they do just give Frank Welker a call. Could you just do Freddy? He's like, yeah. And that's just his voice. That's just his normal voice.
And is he still Freddy and everything?
Not in Scoob!
Right.
Point, but basically, yes. He's pretty much, if he's ever not Freddy, it's when they're casting against type. But it's also because he took over Scooby, it's kind of a package deal. If you hire him for Scooby, you're getting him as Freddy too.
Because every voice actor changed immediately after this, except for Casey Kasem and Frank Welker.
Yes, yeah.
And Scooby, of course.
And filling out the original cast, you have voice actress Nicole Jaffe as Velma, who on and off would play Velma for a while. There was a cute old interview I saw with her of saying, like, she herself is a glasses wearer, and she says that, like, during an early script read, she dropped her glasses, and the writers were like, oh, that's funny. Well, we should have Velma do that.
And she would do that in every episode.
In the first season, Daphne was voiced by actress, singer Stefania Christofferson, who then moved to New York with her husband in between seasons 1 and 2. So she was replaced by soap opera actress Heather North, who apparently was also like roommates with Nicole Jaffe. She played Daphne a lot, not every Daphne for like 30 years, but Nicole and Heather were often Velma and Daphne. And then rounding out the cast, you had Hanna-Barbera regulars like Hal Smith and Vic Perrin doing like one-off roles. Or if you just meet a character, like multiple characters, like, oh, that's just Casey Kasem doing another voice. Like that's or Welker. And the show in the original seasons, they were animated out of the Los Angeles offices of Hanna-Barbera. Though in the shorter second season, they were doing more outsourcing. Though this was more instead of the Asian countries that often do overseas production. In 1970, it was more done by like production places in Mexico or South America, so a lot more of it went there in the first season. Takamoto is a little defensive about the overseas production in his book. Like, he knows it causes more production mistakes, but he also admits like the demand for animation is so high right now that there just is not enough people in America or in Los Angeles to produce all the footage they need. They have to go overseas.
There's a really good story in the book too, where I think they were leaving the offices and Joe Barbera just pulls up in his Cadillac next to Takamoto and just says, hey, can we talk for a moment? And they drive somewhere, and Joe Barbera, it says he's like getting concerned about the idea of outsourcing their animation, and he doesn't know what to think of it. And Takamoto just goes, well, I think it's better to have more hands on our animation than to keep it here and just not have enough people. And Joe Barbera just goes, yeah, you got a good point, and then never complained about the outsourcing ever again.
I mean, the outsourcing, you know, it still can cause production problems to this day, but I think especially in the 80s, me and Bob wouldn't love anime so much if they didn't outsource to anime production company. Like Zombie Island looks so good because they went
beautiful.
with an anime company to do it. And so yes, that's all the folks working on Scooby-Doo. The first season of 13 episodes premieres, 18 episodes premieres on CBS September 13th, 1969. It is an instant rating smash, the biggest show of that fall. It outperforms Archie like instantly. Filmation apparently was given the same instructions by Silverman, so they created a show called The Hardy Boys, well, a new version of The Hardy Boys that was a group of teens in a van who go to solve mysteries, and Scooby-Doo murders it in the ratings.
Can you tell me why then they stopped after 2 seasons and it didn't come back for another few years? That just mystified me, knowing it's such a big thing.
Well, I think that there definitely was more demand for Scooby, but I think it was like they always are about making a new series at each time, and so I think they just couldn't repackage it into a new season until basically it was 72 when the new Scooby movies start, which is the second series. So I think they had like a year dip there, but it was to basically double production. When they did the new Scooby movies, each is an hour long.
Yeah.
So they made way more. So maybe there wasn't an answer to this in Takamoto's book either, but I could see it as just like a production jam up. Oh, the demand for Scooby is so much. Let's make a guest-driven hour-long Scooby instead of just 30-minute shows. Well, and also it was so big that it influenced every Hanna-Barbera show after as well. Everybody ripped off Scooby, Hanna-Barbera among them. In fact, the next season, they not only ripped off Scooby, but they also went to Archie to get their own show for Josie and the Pussycats. The same style of show, which I think is why in the second set of Josie and the Pussycats, like, you know, we got to put them in outer space. Like, they're too similar
I believe
to Scooby and the Gang.
Josie got the movie before Scooby, the live action movie. I think they were like 2001 and Scooby-Doo was 2002.
That's right. Yeah, it was one of like those last pre 9/11 things was the Josie and the Pussycats movie. But yeah, so Where Are You? They got new episodes in 1970, an 8 episode second season. And after that, technically that was a short-lived Scooby-Doo, but that was because they started working on another one. And they were basically, it was rare for 16 years straight. There was always a new Scooby-Doo on. There was at least one new Scooby production each year of television. But that's a story for another podcast. So that is how Scooby-Doo came to be. And yeah, I think, Iwa Takamoto, without his designs, like, the show doesn't work. Like, it's Ruby and Spears, they're very important in this, in the development, and Silverman too, of getting the spark. But all of the trappings they created of this story, without interesting, funny characters to look at, like, it just doesn't work. You wouldn't care to look at them visually. And so I think it's fair to call, Ruby and Spears, they are creators of Scooby-Doo as well, but I think Takamoto is, like, I would call him chief creator of Scooby-Doo.
I think so.
Yeah. But all right, why don't we take a break? When we come back, we'll talk about the specific episode of Scooby-Doo, Jeepers, It's the Creeper.
Hold on to your ghosts, cause here come the spookiest, most spine-tingling tales ever to chill a bone. Delight and fright, shiver and shake, quiver and quake. Watch Scooby-Doo, Where Are You?
Jinkies, it's Henry Gilbert welcoming you to this ad break while I look for my glasses. I can't see a thing.
And it's me, Bob Mackey. I am the creepy hermit. That's actually a red herring.
And welcome to the break. Big thank you to our guest, Kris Dobbins, this week. We really appreciate having them on. And, we also appreciate our supporters on Patreon who help us do this full-time. This is how it's me and Bob's full-time job. Subscribers like you, though not you, because you're hearing this on the free version. Why aren't you like those good people?
And if you go to patreon.com/Talking Simpsons, you can become a good person by signing up for $5 a month. You can access all these episodes 1 week ahead of time and ad-free. And then, like Henry said, also access all the bonus stuff as well. That includes all of our limited miniseries, which includes the newly unveiled Talking Futurama Season 2 Part 2 that'll be rolling out through the rest of 2020. It's our look at Futurama Season 2 Part 2, the back half of Season 2 of Futurama, with the Talking Simpsons / What a Cartoon treatment. And of course, that is only available behind the $5 paywall with all the other miniseries like Talking Critic, Talking of the Hill, Talking Mission Hill, and the remainder of Talking Futurama. There's so much stuff happening behind that paywall, and when you sign up, you will get access to everything we've done for the past 3.5 years just for signing up for $5 a month. Immediately, that'll all be yours, and there's so much to listen to. And also, there is a $10 tier on top of that. If you sign up for that tier, you get all the $5 stuff and also access to one mega-long podcast once a month that is only for the patrons of that level or higher.
Yes, Bob is talking about the What a Cartoon Movie podcast, which, if you're a subscriber on the free feed, you have heard each month we do an extended preview of it. But if you'd like to hear the entire podcast each month and a giant back catalog that comes with it, you should go to the $10 level at patreon.com/Talking Simpsons. That premium level gets you all the $5 benefits plus the What a Cartoon Movie each month and a ton of other back catalog stuff too. This month, I believe you'll be hearing a scary movie, perhaps another Scooby-Doo film. It's not decided at this moment, but whatever it is, you will get to hear that in full, and all the previous ones like The Black Cauldron, Space Jam, Beavis and Butthead Do America, Batman Mask of the Phantasm, and a million other ones. You definitely want to give that a listen at the $10 a month level at patreon.com/Talking Simpsons.
And if you've never signed up for Patreon before, it is so easy to do. And then once you do, you're given access to a code that you can access anytime you want. And you just drop that code into whatever you use to listen to podcasts. And that way you can integrate our bonus podcasts alongside all the other free podcasts you listen to. And there is also an app for any smart device that Patreon has. And you can use that as well to access our bonus content. But either way, it is so easy to access all the content waiting for you at patreon.com/Talking Simpsons.
All right, man, let's get back to this podcast and stuff. Zoinks!
Scooby-Doo.
Scooby-Doo, where are you?
Scooby-Doo, where are you? Scooby-Doo, where are you?
Now there's a place where you can find Scooby-Doo anytime you want him. Scooby.CartoonNetwork.com. Get groovy with Scooby.CartoonNetwork.com.
Jeepers, it's the creeper!
What do we do now? It's a mystery.
I know. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
Zoinks! It's Lucy, like our favorite State Farm agent lady.
Hi, gang. I'll handle it. And that's not really a monster.
Creeper!
Mr. Carswell!
You meddling kids.
State Farm takes the mystery out of dealing with insurance. Get to a groovier state.
Scooby-Dooby-Doo, where are you? We got some work to do now. Scooby-Dooby-Doo, where are you? We need some help from you now. Come on, Scooby-Doo, I see you, pretending you got a sliver. You're not fooling me, 'cause I can see the way you shake and shiver. You know we got a mystery to solve, so Scooby-Doo, be ready for your act. Don't hold back, and Scooby-Doo, if you come through, you're gonna have yourself a Scooby snack. Scooby-Dooby-Doo, here are you. You're ready and you're willing. If we can count on you, Scooby-Doo, I know we'll catch that feeling.
Okay, we are back. You just heard the iconic Scooby-Doo theme song.
Oh, but which one?
Well, I played the season 2 version because that's the episode we're doing, and that's the one most people know.
Yeah,
too. Yeah.
I noticed that the openings for seasons 1 and 2 were different because I have more memories of the season 1 opening.
Yeah.
And I prefer the season 1 opening because that opening has like more continuity in it.
I prefer the clips they put in there to the clips in the season 2. But I like the singer of the season 2 version, Austin Roberts. I like his voice
Yeah.
better.
In the opening for season 1, though, like there's this famous scene where like Shaggy's like losing control on roller skates. In the season 2 one, he crashes outside. The season 1 one, he crashes inside, which makes more sense because he's inside of a house. I'm very serious about this topic. And also, Shaggy crashes into like the lower half of the spooky scuba man, and he looks up and we see him in season 1, but in season 2, he looks up and it's like the voodoo man all of a sudden.
Oh, yeah, I don't like that cut to the voodoo man. The witch doctor, I believe, is the official name, yeah.
And I prefer the, again, I'm very serious about this. I prefer the season 1 closing where Scooby's like licking the cotton candy off of himself instead of like coming up out of the sewer and looking like pulling a mask off and looking at it or whatever. So
the Scooby-Doo theme song is actually like one of the first things that really got me realizing how animation worked, because I think it was around when the first live action movie came out. There was a special with Lunchables, which shows the age I was when that movie came out, where they included these holographic cards that like when you twisted them, it showed clips from the opening. And I remember I had one where it was Shaggy from the theme song where like he jumps back and his hair spikes out, and I would just constantly move it back and forth and watch how the animation worked.
I love his hair spike out. Well, that's why it's in the opening. It's one of the best like wild takes they did with Shaggy in the whole first series.
I put it on Twitter yesterday, months ago at this point, but I love that like not even animated shot of them all looking at a book. I'm just like, that's that great pose of all the characters together. Like, I think they just look up in like one frame.
In my memory, it was like more movement to it, but really it's just 2 frames of like them all looking at a book and then looking at you. But it's a great shot. Yeah, I agree with you, Bob. The licking cotton candy is more fun than Scooby being scared by the mask he wore. Like that's a lamer last joke to go with. I prefer. Well, also when you see Scooby eat the cotton candy, you're just like, oh, I'm excited for pink funny candy too. And yeah, Austin Roberts, he wrote or co-wrote a lot. He didn't write this song, but he wrote and co-wrote a lot of the songs he performed in season 2. Season 2 is really where there's the original song each episode,
okay.
And they're all Austin Roberts, including the very weird one in this episode.
I want to marry an ostrich. I do love like the weird clash of tones between like spooky monster fun and this beach party music.
Yes, yeah. Oh, and also the opening theme though, the writer writing of it is done by David Mook and Ben Raleigh. They're the credited writers of it, though I don't think they did the composition for the songs within the show, as in like, the incidental music. The music director on the series was HB legend Ted Nichols. I don't believe are related to Nick Nichols. So all of the great like doo 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 doo. I believe that's him.
Yeah, I love the title cards for these where they're in their run cycle.
Oh God,
they will never not move like that. Those are the 8 frames of animation they have for that cycle. That's it.
I think when I was a kid, even if I was bored with watching Scooby reruns, I would watch the full opening and then change the channel. I was like, wow, this opening is still great. I'll watch it a million times. Like, it's one of the best opening songs of any kid's cartoon. And it's I do complain about clip show openings instead of original animation openings, but all of those clips are just so iconic to me. The one of the ghost hand like barely missing grabbing Velma, and just the skates one, Scooby in the barrel, or Scooby popping out of the dirt with his mouth tied up like that's all stuck in my head. And then all of the monsters, like there's good monsters that came after the Where Are You, but the ones in Where Are You are so iconic, even a couple ones that haven't aged so great.
Again, watching 1 and 2, I like the opening for 1 better because I think they made it less scary for 2. Like in the opening for 1, like the bats fly by for a lot longer in the beginning before they do the like, no, it's actually fun kind of fake out. And then you see a lot more shots of the paintings of monsters in the season 1. So I think in season 2, like, maybe this was too scary.
I bet you're right. I bet they got the note of like too scary. I think the best combo is the original season 1 animation for the opening, but the Austin Roberts song over it, which I think was interesting to watch this on HBO and the season 1 ones as well, because I found out like we got different versions of this growing up. Like there's laugh tracks in this. They took the laugh tracks out for the reruns in our childhood in the 90s, and they've now been put back in. And same with like we got chopped up versions of the opening. Though also in my memory, I messed up because I watched the new Scooby movies so many times that those start with all the cool eyes that I kept thinking like the floating eyes were this one.
Yeah.
And same with when they go like, Scooby-Doo, where are you? I kept waiting for him to go like, we're over here. But that's from new Scooby movies.
I don't like when Shaggy gets in on the song either.
Same.
Yeah, it should only be Scooby who can jump into the song. Yeah. Yeah, the opening title card with the constantly repeating like 8 frames of animation of them running is, again, that's when it's limited animation. At least they make those 8 frames look really good if they're going to reuse them a million times.
It's like an older version of creating a 3D model. It's like, well, here's our model of Woody. You can use this model wherever you want. Well, it's like, here's our run animation. At one point in this episode, they were like running with that animation like at a 45-degree angle, like up a plank. It's like, that's the best they're ever going to look running, so just use it everywhere.
It's also great that each character has like the way they run in their cycles informs a lot about their character.
Oh yeah, I can just see the Shaggy run with like the wrists are forward or something. Yeah.
Like one of the tests that you get when you're training in animation is animating a character. There's a really good video on Big Hero 6 where one of the animators animated each character walking into the diner and then sitting in a chair. And the test is have each character walk and sit down in a way that fits their character. So like they'll walk a different way or they'll pull out the chair a different way. And I think Scooby-Doo does that like incredibly well.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. Yeah. Also in the Yasuo Otsuka documentary I watched, like his big test as an animation teacher too is just like how is character expressed through movement. Like it's not just everyone walks the same way.
I'm watching it now and like Shaggy's leaned all the way forward. Velma's like pushed back, like really good posture running, like a nerd.
What a nerd.
And Freddy's a real jock. Yeah. And Daphne, she's the girl.
She's
the most girlish.
Who was everybody's favorite growing up? Like, I mean, now my favorite's Velma, honestly. But Scooby, I think, was my favorite as a kid.
I think I'm pretty sure I had a crush on Daphne while watching this as a kid because those feelings were coming back. It's a very lonely time. But yeah, Velma for sure.
I definitely relate to Velma the most, but my favorite has always been Shaggy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Shaggy's so funny. And I'd also like the Casey Kasem's portrayal of Shaggy is just so good too. And like I think I had my doubts of Matthew Lillard at first, but he's like he just wants to live his life the same as Casey Kasem. He's like, I'll be the Shaggy forever. It's always going to be me, unless you don't invite him to your movie like you do with Scoob. Which we're not talking about Scoob. Let's not suck.
But it's the origin story we all needed.
Finally, at last. And finally, they're not solving mysteries anymore. They're fighting Dick Dastardly as they always should have. Anyway, this episode begins with not with the gang, but with instead a security guard who gets stopped in the road, and it's such a great like classic old horror movie opening. Like, oh, I've heard stories of the werewolf. What the hell? No, it's blocking the road. And also though, the creeper, I gotta say, spoilers, knowing that it's Mr. Carswell, he's really committed to this creeper character.
I think he's really enjoying this.
Yeah.
And because it's a kid's cartoon, I like how this bank guard is narrating everything he does. Like, tree, huh? Think I'll move it.
And also that like it happens off screen, but that he gets conked on the head, like that it begins with a security guard is violently beaten. Like that's an intense opening for a kid's cartoon.
Mr. Carswell's a bad employer.
He also should know he doesn't need to do all these theatrics to rob his own bank. You can just kind of do that in the open. But the design of the creeper, you know, we almost did Spooky Space Kook that episode because I had picked that one because I was like, oh, what a great design. But it's kind of a crappy episode compared to this one.
That episode also starts with the worst sound effect I've ever heard.
Oh, yeah. What was that one?
It's the sound of the spaceship flying around, but it's so loud and annoying. It like hurt my ears listening to it.
Yeah, and that one doesn't even give you two suspects in it. You have one suspect, and when it's not that guy, he goes like, oh, it was my neighbor. Well, how about you show us the neighbor at any point before this?
They didn't write in a random hermit?
Well, I take this episode to have three possible culprits, because you got Carswell, you got the security guard, and you've got the hermit. Though I guess the security guard being attacked would seem to count him out in the beginning. So perhaps really the hermit's the only other possible guy. But I do think, you know, he's not as cool looking as Space Kook or the Funland robot to me. But I do think the creeper is a really great design that it's kind of like a mashup of like green-skinned ghouls and also like Quasimodo, I think.
Like a Dr. Jekyll kind of guy, I guess, too.
Though they fought Dr. Jekyll like 3 episodes before this.
Oh, whoops, sorry.
Who's kind of the same dude. I watched a video about how like the Scooby Gang over 50 years has fought dozens of green-skinned guys wearing coats. They fight a lot of these guys, but Creeper's the most famous. And so yes, we see the creeper encroaching on this unsuspecting security guard, and it cuts to the gang in their van, first with them getting ready for the big barn dance, which it's one of those rare moments where they actually indicate the kids are in high school. They're like, it's a school dance.
Have existing other friends. There are other teens here.
They're usually pretty far away from other teens, but there's also a funny bit of, in Takamoto's book, he's a little critical of later Scooby shows that humanize Scooby-Doo too much. He's like, you have to remember, Scooby's a dog. But then I'm seeing in this one, he's like, Scooby-Doo puts on his own bow tie and combs his hair. He is not a dog at all in this joke.
And he's fawning over himself in a mirror.
Yeah.
I forget if I saw this on Twitter or not, but a really good description for Scooby that I read from somebody and always agreed with is that I feel like Scooby's not really a talking dog. He's more of a dog who sounds like he's talking, and Shaggy's really the only one who gets him.
I like that better than everyone knowing what Scooby says. Yeah.
Yeah, like I'm not a fan of recent Scoob where he says full sentences and like is very anthropomorphic. I like him being a dog who just sounds like he's talking, and since Shaggy owns him, Shaggy's the one who understands what he's saying.
Yeah, I'm sure it's happened, but I can't recall anything he says in these early ones that's like plot important. He usually just repeats something that somebody says with replacing different consonants with R.
Or like in this episode, Shaggy will go like, hey, look guys, Scooby found something. And compare that to, say, Scooby-Doo in the WrestleMania Mystery where he does a full wrestling match.
Who does he fight in that?
Lots of guys. But Triple H, The Undertaker, Big Show, he fights them all.
The combination of Hanna-Barbera and wrestling is still just, it mystifies me.
It's, I think, the most confusing one. They met the Flintstones, they did the Scooby-Doo twice, but I think the Surf's Up WWE sequel is the weirdest of all.
God, I'm looking at the clips of this. Sorry to get off topic, but why Shaggy should not be wrestling.
Right?
He should not be wrestling Kane.
Yeah, our friends of the show, OSW Review, did a really great review of the Scooby-Doo WrestleMania mystery. Also, this makes me kind of want to try chocolate-dipped corn on the cob. I like popcorn with chocolate on it. Maybe it tastes good.
That made me remember, Shaggy's gimmick is just, not just food, but weird combinations of food.
Yeah.
There's a really good part in Takamoto's book where he goes into, old rumors about Scooby-Doo.
Oh, yes.
And he makes it perfectly clear. He's like, people have said that Shaggy and Scooby are potheads because of how much they eat. He's like, no, that is not true. Joe Ruby hated drugs, and we just wanted to add some really weird things to their characters to make it fun for kids.
Yeah. His defensiveness about it is shocking, honestly. It's like, wow, all right, you're making it very clear. Well, also because, okay, so I found this released posthumously for Takamoto, but this interview with Raleigh Crump, who is, a Disney animator legend and Imagineering legend who's still with us. Raleigh Crump tells this story of getting high with Takamoto and Takamoto's wife. Of them, he keeps saying smoking, but he's like, I didn't know Wow smoked, and so I was like, hey, let's order some Chinese food and some ice cream and get smoking together, me, you, and your wife. So I was like, and also in Takamoto's book, he outs Milton Call for growing weed on his property.
That's awesome.
So that's what's weirdest to me. That Takamoto clearly was doing reefer in the 60s, but still is no, Shaggy's not a stoner. It's and Casey Kasem as well, and Ruby Spears in their own interviews, all were just he's not a stoner. He's not a stoner. Even Matthew Lillard has to go no, he's just a guy who loves life and loves eating. It's less fun if you take away the mystery of it and just directly say, yeah, Shaggy smokes weed and he's doing it here. He's doing it on screen now. That's boring.
You could also say teenage boys eat a lot, right?
Yeah,
they're growing.
That Takamoto does say that in the book too. Yeah. But come on. They are parodying a beatnik. They all know those guys smoked weed, and they were smoking weed then. It's I feel there's more than a little actual pot jokes with Shaggy. Even if Joe Ruby was a teetotaler who hated hippies, I still think there's a little intentionality to how it's not just that Shaggy eats all the time and eats weird food and always has the munchies, but he is he wears a t-shirt that's too big for himself, he's sloppily dressed, he's poorly shaven, he says and man all the time, and he gets scared all the time, he freaks out.
He's paranoid.
Yeah, he's very paranoid.
I think Shaggy was a pioneer in the very weird Carl's Jr. food items for stoners. What if there was ranch dressing on a taco? We figured it out, and you're gonna eat it.
Yeah, a lot of episodes are honestly chocolate on corn on the cob is less weird than some of the sandwiches Shaggy describes in other episodes.
Yeah, I think there's chocolate covered popcorn and stuff like that. The flavors could mix.
And yeah, as Messick laughs in the Scooby voice too, I wonder what do you guys think is the more iconic Don Messick dog laugh, Scooby or Muttley's?
Ooh.
Because I do think Scooby's it's pretty good.
I would say Scooby just because he's a way more popular character than Muttley.
Yeah. Oh man, I love Muttley. We need Muttley. I guess Muttley is a major character in Scoob the movie, so maybe he'll be more popular now.
And they just made 80 episodes of that Wacky Races reboot recently.
I just have that on Verve. I could watch it whenever I wanted to. I don't think I will anytime soon, but
one thing I also like about Scooby's design in classic Scooby-Doo is when he smiles, they'll give him these really big upper teeth.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they're not dog teeth at all. They're just giant rectangular human teeth.
It makes him look more like a silent film star with just a goofy grin. Again, back to the Abbott and Costello route. So I guess that's more like Stan Laurel, I suppose. But so as the gang is on their way, they spot an unconscious man.
Hey, what's that?
What?
It looks like there's been an accident. And there's someone lying in the road.
It's a bank guard. Is he all right?
I think so. He just got a bad conk on the head.
Wow, this is the craziest accident I ever saw. Not a scratch on the outside, but a real wreck on the inside.
Wreck nothing. This car's been ransacked.
Maybe the bank guard can give us some answers. He's coming around.
The flame will tell. The creeper.
The creeper?
The reaper?
Wow, this is creepy. Who's the creeper?
And what's with that piece of paper the guard handed you, Freddy?
I don't know. It's blank.
Over here. What is this?
Like Scooby's found something.
What is it?
It's the bank president's address.
And he lives right near here.
Come on, let's take the guard to his house and get some help.
That should have tipped us all off. Like, Carswell wasn't even doing it he's doing it near his house, this crime.
He's devoted to the role, but he's also very lazy. I do want to go back to something that was not in a clip that was said in the car, because I was like, the people writing this were all born in like 1920, and Scooby is in front of this mirror in the back of the van getting ready, and, you know, he's really full of himself and, you know, preening, and Fred's like, he's really putting on the dog.
Yeah.
And I was like, that is an idiom I have not heard outside of like the dustiest books. And it means if you're putting on the dog, it means you're being like full of yourself or pretentious or whatever. I was just like, and there's a huge laugh after putting on the dog.
Yeah, the fake audience is very entertained by that turn of phrase. Yeah, it's funny that comes right after Velma saying, like, isn't it groovy? Like, that is them trying to be current.
Our groovy barn dance.
That all the kids love a good barn dance. Though also, that bank guard should really have said, like, it's Carswell. Don't say the flame will tell.
He's suffered major brain damage and can only speak in riddles.
That shows you also how different times were. It was just like, just a bad conk on the head. Like, that's how they treated concussions in 1969. I also thought it was funny that Freddie just goes like, it's a bank guard. Like, is it?
Yeah, because when I first started taking my notes, I wrote down cop, and then Freddie was like, it's a bank guard. I was like, I guess I'll take your word for it. You're the detective here.
Yeah, that laugh track is kind of distracting, but I guess they needed kids to know, like, this was a joke back then. Or also on the old Space Ghosts when they'd play and they'd have like, ooh, wow. Like, those are very distracting in my childhood.
I mean, it was the style at the time for TV shows, but also I think it helped distract from the lack of movement. Just like more textures happening and, you know, in the audio to distract you from like not so many things moving around on the screen.
Yeah, there's a couple points throughout this episode where a character will say something and you hear like a split second of really faint laughter in the background. And I remember hearing that and being like, what's that about?
It's like one of the cameramen laughing.
It's like it's like on Talk Soup when a cameraman was like, it's all right. But there's also some really good dog acting on Scooby there when Shaggy takes the note from him and then Scooby like jumps under his chin to look at it too. Like, I've only had limited interactions with a Great Dane, and when I worked at a video store, this older gay man had this huge dog. Like, he always had one huge dog or another the time I worked there, and one was a Great Dane, and honestly it scared me because like it acted like a normal sized dog, but when it was like, yeah, I'm gonna jump up on you, I was like, you have tackled me, you monster. Get off of me. Like,
they're big babies.
I never grew up with Great Danes, but I grew up with collies and golden retrievers all my life. And golden retrievers are exactly like Scooby, where they will just get all up in your business no matter what you're doing.
You're like, hey, what are you looking at? Shove.
I mean, maybe some of our listeners have Great Danes, and I apologize, but I find them kind of hideous. I just don't like dogs with hanging flaps.
I get it. I mean, they're cute.
Tighten up those flaps.
If I were in the market for a dog and I would only adopt, not shop, Great Dane would probably be low on my list, but who knows? Maybe at the pound I'd find a Great Dane that really connects with me. But also they go through a sad thing when you watch Scooby as an adult is you're just like, well, I know that Great Dane's go through a lot of health problems.
He must be shitting everywhere too.
Apparently, they were at first worried they'd be too similar to Marmaduke, but then they eventually were like, nah, forget it. We're still going to do a Great Dane. Marmaduke doesn't own that dog breed. But yes, the gang then heads over to the bank manager's house, and that's where they learn about the Creeper.
Were there any clues to who did this?
No, sir, but the guard handed us this blank paper and mumbled, the flame will tell the Creeper.
Like, who is this Creeper anyways?
Yeah, ooh. The Creeper is a mysterious figure that's been robbing our bank in the dead of night. And each time, the doors and windows are still locked from the inside.
Well, then how does he do it?
He's a phantom. A phantom that can walk right through walls.
Well, phantom or no phantom, we got a date at the barn dance.
Why don't you kids run along? I'll take care of everything.
So yeah, he then says, I'll take care of the guard. He'll be fine when he wakes up. And I wrote in my notes, no! It's like, this. You know what this man with a concussion needs? Sleep.
Yeah, just let him sleep here.
Like, I think he's thinking like, yeah, he'll die in my house and it'll be plausible that he just had a concussion and slipped away.
I love his delivery of saying he's a phantom. Like, they're questioning and he has to come up with an excuse real quick for why he's able to get in and out without like leaving a trail. He's a phantom.
It's like, we all know what phantoms do.
Look, it's a phantom.
They're
okay?
real.
We all know about him. Like, that's who robs the bank every night, not just once, but many nights in a row. It's the creeper, guys. Like, Carswell's very invested in the mythology of the character he's invented.
Well, the sheriff is like asleep at the switch. He's just out of town.
Yeah, where's he at? Come on. And he's got no deputies. Like, isn't that just the cops, like, not there when you need them? I tell you. But I did read an interesting point somebody made that, like, while the show definitely trusts some authority figures, like the ever-present cop who fixes everything at the end, who's just like, I'm the law and I arrested everybody, it's all fine. It is something in the show, most of the time the villain is a male authority figure that they first trust. And that includes Carswell here. Is just like, yeah, I'm the bank manager. You can trust me. It's the creeper. And it turns out, like, no, you shouldn't have trusted him. He was lying to you kids.
Yeah, Matt and I talked about this. We did a Cartoons 101 episode about Zombie Island, and we just talked all about different types of Scooby-Doo on that. And Matt said his view on Scooby-Doo was that, like, these kids are all pretty much draft dodgers who are going against all these super high authority figures and, like, trying to expose them for how bad they truly are.
Yeah. There's some counterculture reading you can put into it that I like. Though, at the end of the day, they're all like, and of course, Mr. Sheriff, we all trust you. And also, when Carswell says, like, oh, did he leave behind any clues? There's a glaring animation mistake of he's standing next to a table that has open legs on it, but the animators treated it as like, no, it's a table that doesn't have an opening in it, so they just don't draw his legs that are obscured by the table. But look, they had to get out. In Talk About His Book, he makes a good point of just like, we got to get the feet out. Like, we need 100 feet a day out of this thing. Like, that number's off. But it was all about cranking out footage. You didn't have time. Retake. What is a retake? So the Carswell, they trust him. I love that Freddy just goes like, Phantom or no Phantom, we've still got a date at the barn.
He's got his eyes on the prize. Gonna dance with Daphne
and ignore Velma.
He's gonna get to hold her hand in that dance.
I know,
Spicy.
A little more intimacy than usual. That again is one of the many Scooby meta jokes, is that Freddy and Daphne go off on their own so they can make out and not actually find clues. That was a joke in the what's not on HBO Max or Verve or Boomerang, Johnny frickin' Bravo. That's not on there. And I really wanted to watch their Scooby episode because that's where they shoved in every joke they could. They could get past the censors.
I'm a big fan of that one.
That's such a good episode.
And that one has the joke of like Freddy looking at Daphne. When Daphne suggests going off with like Shaggy or Velma, Freddy goes, Daphne, and then like wiggles his eyebrows. She's like, oh yeah, no, actually me and Freddy, we'll go off over there. But yes, as the barn dance begins, Velma is unfortunately left with a different suitor.
This is a groovy dance floor, isn't it, Velma?
Yeah, well, why don't you try dancing on it instead of my feet? I've been a wallflower before, but this is ridiculous.
Hey, Scoob, look, buffet table at 3 o'clock. Are you with me?
I'm with you.
My favorite snack. Corn on the cob a la chocolate syrup.
They really should have put in a typewriter sound when he was eating that corn.
Yeah, I think that was a mistake there.
I was waiting for that.
That should have had the type, especially the satisfied smirk on Scooby's face. That should definitely have had the typewriter sound. I just love like any of the old Hanna-Barbera sound effects. They're all beloved by me. But poor Velma, it's 1970. She can't dance with a girl, so she's stuck dancing with this weird beatnik who'd rather dance with his dog. I like reading Shaggy as having like no sexual interest, honestly.
Sort of like a Jughead style character.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, he's
Jughead.
Yeah. Well, same with Velma. I read Velma as like almost exclusively a lesbian. It's how I read her. But and I mean, that's been in the news, well, at the time of this recording, that's been in the news lately, of how, like, the folks who worked on Mystery Inc., they tried to make it as explicit as possible, but you couldn't say it. Like, I would think now in, the post-She-Ra, post-Steven Universe world, I think they could get away with explicitly having Velma have a girlfriend in a new Scooby-Doo thing. I think they could do it.
I hope so.
She should. I mean, honestly, they should all be gay. Just all, if they're supposed to be the teens of the era,
that's true.
Then they should all be just queer on some level.
Yep. I feel like whenever they do an adaptation of Scooby-Doo, like modern, I feel like they're always limiting themselves but trying to keep to the 60s aesthetic.
Yeah, but they don't. I get that they're worried of the danger of like, well, if you make it too current, then it just dates them as well. Like that. Like when they did the pup named Scooby-Doo, they could have 80s them up even more, but it's more like a couple extra things to it. Like the Daphne redesign in 13 Ghosts is one of the most extreme I think they ever did.
Yeah, you're right.
And I love her big Farrah Fawcett hair in that. Though, also, Kris, since you're on here, I did want to compliment you. Your pitch redesigns of a new Scooby Gang that were on Twitter back in August when you're listening to this, those are all really great.
Oh, thank you so much.
Man, I think, I love all the designs of them, honestly, but I think your Freddy is the most interesting Freddy I've seen in a while, I think.
Yeah, lots of people had comments about that, but
I'm sure they did.
I don't really care at this point.
And I love that Scooby is eternal, though. Like, Scooby is Scooby.
Yeah, because, like, how can you change Scooby's design? You can't. It's so perfect. You can't really quote unquote modernize it.
Yeah, despite the look of the show, they've never tampered with that rather.
The more you play with it, the more you just notice like, it doesn't work as well. Like, or same with they humanized him too much in the live action version. Like have you guys seen that the puppet Scooby they almost used in it? Like, I honestly think he looks a little better than the CG Scooby.
I'm really afraid to see that movie in the cold light of 2020.
We watched the first live action movie a couple of weeks ago here, and we still absolutely love it. I think it's a great movie.
All right. Okay. All the more reason to check it out. I also, though, that opening joke there, I know it well because in a classic episode of Space Ghost Coast to Coast, they recreated it, except replacing all the dialogue.
This is a groovy dance floor, isn't it, Velma?
Yeah. Why don't you try dancing on it instead of my feet?
Pray I run in?
Well, I've seen a wallflower before, but this is ridiculous.
Walter got the line wrong.
Yeah, he did.
He said, "I've seen a wallflower before." It's "I've been a wallflower before."
They're doing this in an afternoon.
I like how they're just like, just take we don't care what you do with any of this stuff that we own.
Exactly. Yeah.
That caught me totally off guard.
Had you not heard it before, Kris?
No, I haven't. I don't really have much experience with Space Ghost.
Oh, it's a good time. It's a fun. I wish I could watch it now without thinking about how C. Martin Croker especially was like completely taken advantage of. But I think it holds up pretty well. They did a lot of stuff that like pissed off Hanna-Barbera. But, I think when they made the devil a Yogi Bear design and reused a Yogi Bear design for the devil, I think they did hear something from Hanna-Barbera about that. But yeah, that opening, if you want to watch that opening for yourself, it's in the episode Pile Driver, completely unrelated to the rest of the episode.
I'm sure it is.
That's the classic one with Macho Man Randy Savage in it. A really great one. Okay, so the creeper then arrives, turns off the lights, and it's funny too that Fred's like, "Oh man, the lights are out. Let's just go to the malt shop." It's like, how are you trying to fix the lights like for 1 minute?
Turn them back on.
But at least we get a classic like Shaggy. Shaggy says zoinks, I think 5 times in this. We get no jinkies in this, sadly, but we get at least a few zoinks. Maybe they weren't that interested in giving everybody a catchphrase until then.
What I like is like they're going to go to the malt shop, and I love looking at the 70s values in this show. I guess late 60s values too, because it's like, okay, Shaggy and Scooby, you go clean up. They eat all the food. What do you do with the garbage? Oh, just dump it. Just dump it on the property. Who cares? They're just gonna dump a bunch of paper plates just on the property.
Yeah, put all the filthy paper plates in a box and then walk away like, there's a scarecrow. Just leave them there. Whatever.
Yeah,
we got malts to drink.
The EPA doesn't exist yet, so.
Well, I also think they're only doing it because Freddy told them to. Like Freddy's like, "Yeah, guys, let's go to the malt shop." "Yes, sir. You're the blonde quarterback. We must listen to you." It's also weird that the first commercial break just goes out on Scooby being excited, like, we're going to eat all the food, and then blackout. That's very odd.
That would keep me going in 1970.
I mean, you're going to get to, if you stick around through the commercial breaks, you're going to get to watch Scooby and Shaggy eat more food.
I guess we didn't mention this episode just turned 50.
Yes, you're right. Wow.
So.
Wow, I this was not even an intended anniversary, but you're right. This is 50 this month. And yes, as they're basically human food vacuums, and they vacuum up all the food, and then they think they're just seeing a normal scarecrow.
Shaggy, Scooby, hurry it up in there.
You will be right out. Okay, Scoob. On your mark, get set, go! Pretty good cleanup job, if I do say so myself.
Yeah.
Now all that's left is to take these paper plates out back. We can dump them by that ugly scarecrow, Scoob.
Dump them.
Zoinks! He's for real! Gangway!
I love every creeper moan. It's such great old-timey moans there. And yeah, the zoinks, he's for real. Classic. I wish there was a bigger reaction on it. And they reuse the same old running cycle for them, but they put a box, they just place a box on top of it. Yeah. Though at least that gives them good cover for running over Velma, because if they did it when they could see, that would be too mean to Velma. But if they accidentally knock into her and knock her glasses off.
It made me realize that this is so successful because it is so formulaic. Like, the same moments happen in every show, and I think kids love that because they love having like a mastery over the things they're into, and they can anticipate the things that will happen and feel good when they see them happen. So the formula is a huge part of what made this very, very successful.
And that includes Velma losing her glasses, right? When you expect that's why, again, if we had done the Space Kook episode, there's no glasses losing.
What are they doing?
We can't. I guess they hadn't figured it out yet. By this season, they know, like, all right, and the glasses drop happens here.
I have in my notes, they all run and leave Velma for dead while she tries to find her glasses.
I know.
Yeah, I was getting frustrated with that. Like, Daphne and Fred are standing right behind her while she's on the ground looking for her glasses, and they're having a whole conversation. I'm like, just get her glasses for her.
You can see them.
It's never implied, like, what will happen if the monster catches you, but, like, later in the episode, like, the monster raises a fist at Velma.
That's right.
Like, he might murder these children.
I guess, yeah. I mean, we know Carswell already beat one man today. I would assume that Carswell just smashed him in the head from behind, and he's mainly counting on intimidation to scare the kids in this chase.
I did get a big laugh unintentionally out of this scene where Velma is like scooting away on her knees like super fast.
Oh yes, yeah. Actually, here's I just love Oliver's search for her glasses here.
Velma, are you all right? I will be as soon as I find my glasses.
Hey, what got into you two? What were you running from anyhow?
Him!
What's that?
That must be the creeper.
I think he wants that blank paper the guard gave us.
And I think it's time to leave. Everybody, run!
What's going on around here? Run from what? There, that's better.
The animation of her run on her knees is pretty funny. That's but I guess she should be hearing them say, "Hey, the creeper's almost here." She's like, "What?"
All of her senses are gone once the glasses come off.
Let me tell you, as a glasses wearer, I do hate the pain of searching for my glasses. Like, when I put them on the bedside table, if I can't find them in the morning, or if I grab my bottle of water and then knock over the glasses, if I'm left searching for them, I then am thinking to myself, like, God damn it, I'm Velma. I just became Velma.
You need one of those cool old lady chains that strap into your neck.
Well, I will say my search for glasses has improved by having a husband who has very good eyesight, because normally I can just go like, well, where are they? He's like, yeah, they were right in front of you. Or if failing that, when I've been on trips without him, a thing that really helps me now is I can just pull up my phone and turn on the camera mode and put the phone right up to my face and look through the camera.
That's a life hack.
So that, Velma should be trying that in these current ones. Something I'll mock the plot for in here is how Daphne jumps to a gigantic conclusion saying, like, he must be after that blank paper. Why? How? What? No.
That's before he even says paper?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, he's just like, well, I guess maybe it sounds like, but it makes no sense. They're just like, he must be after the blank paper. Really? You think so?
Yeah, he's the creeper saying paper as like he's approaching them, but as a kid, I always thought he was just saying creeper.
It does sound like that too, yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was always the creeper. I all right, then maybe it's not bad writing, it just isn't audibly paper to us. But Daphne's like, oh, he wants the paper. And then comes the romp of the episode. That's the term Takamoto used for it. It was called internally the romp, which is the lengthy chase sequence.
The padding, if you will.
Yes, yeah, the padding. Which is also where a lot of the cartoony comedy comes from in each episode as they're being chased. This one it's pretty good, though. I was shocked watching it the first time. It's like, there's no doorway runaround thing. They save it for the end.
There kind of is, like, running in and out of things, but not a bunch of doors.
Yeah. There's no like static shot of a hallway and them running out of doors. There's even when that happens later in the episode, it's more like them going through like different like horse stables.
This song though, Daydreaming. I was getting into it. Like, I really want to, as a total goof, if there are ever parties again, like put some of this music on and be like, you guys like the Beach Boys? This is the real shit. This actually inspired Pet Sounds.
You can find, they put out the whole album of these songs without the goofy sounds over it, so you can hear all of the Austin Roberts songs. I do think this is the weirdest one. Like, I listened to most of them and I was like, well, they all are kind of about love through a very weird lens of like, I made a pie and it's pretty tasty, like all those things. But this has to be the weirdest one because it's a love song to an ostrich.
I thought it was going to be about a bunch of like crazy ideas, like I'm going to marry an ostrich and then like drive around in a piece of pizza or whatever. But no, the entire thing is just like, no, I really like this ostrich. I'm way into it. And people look at me, but I say, don't judge.
We just stick our heads in the ground in the bean and the down. I mean, I think it probably would be hard to be in love with an ostrich if you're an adult man like Austin Roberts. It probably is tough. The romp sequences, I like this chase sequence though, because most of them in Where Are You are like, he sees the gang and and the monster chases him. In this one, it's specifically the monster wants that piece of paper. So even if he catches Fred, Daphne, and Velma, if Fred throws the paper away and in a paper airplane, then he leaves to go after the airplane. So it's like a double chase. I like that. And also, long before Sideshow Bob did it, they have a rake joke in this show.
Yeah, I said they both get Sideshow Bobbed in my notes.
That's exactly what I wrote.
And I have to say, in this chase scene too, there's only like 3 or 4 times in this I wrote down like actual good animation, but the gag of Scooby and Shaggy grabbing the rope and jumping down, like, it actually is pretty, for limited animation in 1970, pretty good.
That struck me as sophisticated in this style.
And like actual new animation that involved like multiple cells and everything. And then it turns into a very weird horse chase. Like, they decide, well, we're all going to get on horses. And even stranger joke that it looks like the creeper riding a horse is falling and then he just bounces out of a canyon.
I rewound that because I thought I missed something, but I guess I didn't.
I don't think so. No, I think it's just very strange. Also, another compliment I'll give to this episode, shaking things up in the formula. Most episodes of Scooby-Doo have them in a haunted whatever, and Freddy or Velma goes, you guys look over there, we'll look over here. This time it actually is through action that they are separated. Shaggy and Scooby are on the horse, while meanwhile the carriage has Velma, Freddy, and Daphne. So they are separated through the chase instead of just the weird, we should all, in this dangerous place, let's all separate. Like,
this was more clever writing.
Though, unfortunately, this one doesn't lead to them separating and then ransacking the kitchen as they normally do. I guess they already filled up at the barn dance. It's also funny, after the chase is over, Shaggy even kind of goes like, boy, that was weird. And so Shaggy and Scooby realize they haven't fully gotten away from the creeper. They then decide it's time for the dress-up segment of every episode of Scooby with Scooby and Shaggy. But this time it's weird because, like, I'm used to them, like, oh, we are now acting like people who run a restaurant or people who run a massage parlor or whatever. But this time they're like, you dress up like a chicken. Hey, we fooled him. All right. Like, no, there's no sketch.
Shaggy just hides under a chicken.
Yeah, it's
like
kind of a low-level dress-up for them.
Does being the creeper also make him stupid?
You're right. He fully sees a dog wearing a glove on his head. He's like, brr. And he just leaves.
I mean, I'm a big bird fan and I love chickens and stuff. And I find this dog-bird thing kind of like, we can get rid of it.
It really is not needed, and it's a lot of filler.
Yeah.
They could have had a whole sketch of, like, I don't know, Shaggy and Scooby dress up as guys who try...
farmers.
Farmers. Okay, they're farmers, and they're talking the creeper through like, oh, you want to buy our new tractor? It's right over here. Pretty fun tractor. All right, now get out of here, Scoob.
Or they're like chicken farmers, and they're showing off the chickens, and then they pelt them with eggs and run away, right?
Yeah, you know what? Pelting with eggs, that's fun. Yeah.
But this is when that they get like a little pet chick who imprints on Scooby and thinks it's a dog.
Yeah, which that just feels to me like they said, hey, you remember those old Yankee Doodle cartoons we did, or even the before
oh my god,
that,
yeah, okay.
Tom and Jerry had a little duck who's like, you're my mommy. Like, I'm pretty sure that's where this all comes from. It's just so they can reuse some old jokes from other cartoons that they had done before. Though this little chick is also kind of a proto-Scrappy, I'd say.
Wow, any longer under here and my head would have hatched. Hey, speaking of hatching, looks like that egg you sat on is hatching. Now you've done it, Scooby. That little chick thinks you're his mother. You better set him straight.
Okay. You... Me?
Oh, great. Now he thinks he's a dog. Come on, Scoob. Let's see if we can find the others before the creeper finds us again.
It just feels like more filler there with this bird. Or also, it's like it should be setting up having a new friend. That's why at the end of this episode, when they're like, "All right, let's get rid of him," it's like, no, this is your new sidekick on the show. It's now the bird. This little chick hangs out with you guys.
I love Shaggy's delivery of, "Oh, great, now he thinks he's a dog." Like, Casey Kasem's delivery as Shaggy is one of my all-time favorite voice acting performances because he's so funny.
He really is. He's like, now he thinks he's a dog. Like, or also there's another good one where Scooby, they're fishing together. This is the next episode after this with the caveman and the block of ice, where they're fishing together and Shaggy's like, I haven't caught anything. And then Scooby is catching hot dogs from somebody else's picnic. And then Shaggy goes like, what? Why didn't I think of that? Like, it's very matter of fact, like, now why didn't I think of that? Yeah, the Casey Kasem just so good. He's such a fun, such a singular voice too. Anybody can do a Shaggy impersonation, but he made it special.
Gives it many shades, right?
Yes, yeah. I will say I had an aunt and cousins who they had chickens and also dogs, and when the chicks were born, they kept them in a bathroom in the bathtub with a locked door because they're like, you cannot trust a dog with a chick.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
So
they're so fragile.
In real life, a dog would not befriend a chick; it would eat it in one bite in some cases.
100%. My family raised some chickens a couple years ago in like a pen in the backyard, and at this time we had 2 Australian Shepherds. And we had to put like a whole fence around the pen because we would let the dogs out, and because Australian Shepherds are herding dogs, they would run right out to the chickens and just like bark at them trying to get them together.
Oh, wow, man. So dogs and chickens, they do not mix. But as it comes back from the commercial break, meanwhile, we meet up with Freddie, Velma, and Daphne, who thankfully were not like killed in this car crash. But they then start their search for clues.
Wow, that was some wild ride.
I'll say it was, but at least that creeper didn't get this paper.
What's so important about a blank piece of paper?
There's only one way to find out. Solve this mystery.
Well, unless my glasses deceive me, I think we've just found our first clue. A car hidden in the bushes.
Let's investigate. Did you find anything?
Not even the registration slip. Hey, wait a minute. There's something on the floor. What is it? Negatives. Torn up negatives.
And there's something strange about them.
Well, one thing isn't strange. Somebody doesn't want somebody to see a picture of somebody.
We'd better find Shaggy and Scooby. Maybe they've found some clues.
That will be the day.
Damn, Velma, that's your friend. You know, why you got...
That was not the first clue either. There were several clues before this. Like being chased by a random psycho. That's a clue.
Well, that's every day for them.
Yeah.
I also like the very light laugh they put on the kind of joke of Velma saying, like, somebody doesn't want to see somebody.
That's what I meant when I addressed that earlier. I'm like, that's like a weird place to put some laughter.
I had to laugh at the great line by Freddy, like, there's only one way to find out. That's by solving this mystery. Like, the only way to solve this mystery is to solve this mystery. Like,
that checks out.
Great leadership, Freddy.
I really like that Fred has faith in Shaggy and Scooby finding clues in the mystery when, like, he knows what their antics are by this point.
Yeah.
I like when they all actually like each other and are friends and have faith in each other, and they don't go like, oh, well, Shaggy and Scooby don't really bring anything to the team.
Yeah, you're right. You know, a lesser show would have just had a character go like, shut up. You don't know what you're talking about, Shaggy. All you do is eat our food. Actually, my Scooby research also brought me to footage I hadn't watched in a very long time, which was the 1999 Cartoon Network series of ads, the Blair Witch Project parody they did. The Scooby-Doo Project, I believe it was called. And in that, one of the extended jokes is, and they've got the original voice actors, or most of them doing it, including Frank Welker. And there's a bit of like Velma saying like, oh, I got to find my glasses. And then Freddy goes like, it's always the glasses, isn't it, Velma? You always was like, buy a string for your glasses. Then it cuts back to Shaggy and Scooby looking for their friends. They get confronted by the creeper. And then in a very Scrappy-Doo moment, they're scared of the creeper while the little baby tries to like confronts him like, hey, like that. That is a very Scrappy-Doo kind of moment there. I also like that when Scooby like saves the baby from the creeper, he then grabs it up, and then before he runs away, he kicks the creeper in the shin.
Yeah, there were two uses of shin violence in this cartoon. Velma will do that later, so that's about as violent as you can get in this cartoon.
100%, yeah. Like Space Ghost got to blow things up, but here it's just a swift kick to the shin to get away. That was the only way of defense people knew back then. And then in a rare goof up by characters who aren't Shaggy and Scooby, Shaggy and Scooby get tackled by Velma, Freddy, and Daphne. They think they're the creeper.
I mean, Freddy finally has the answer. It's violent. It's like, okay, there are how many of us? We have a giant dog. We can take out this one guy.
It's 5-on-1.
He's clearly not armed. He would have shot at us by now.
And he's like, he doesn't seem to be stronger than the average guy. He's just like a green dude who also, yeah, you know what? For all of Carswell setting up that he's a phantom who can go in and out of locked things, the creeper does not display that at any point. He's just a zombie chasing you pretty much. And by that, I mean a classic, you know, pre-George Romero style zombie of like a one zombie kind of scary movie. Like the Adam West MST3K.
Oh, Zombie Nightmare.
Yeah, like Zombie Nightmare. A one zombie type of film instead of a multi-zombie type of film. But yes, they catch Shaggy and Scooby.
Ready? No!
We've got him. We've got the creeper. Correction. We've got Shaggy and Scooby.
I know whose back you're on, but whose side are you on?
Sorry, guys. We thought you were the creeper.
Like, who do you think we're running from, this baby chick?
You saw the creeper? Where?
According to Scooby, you've been running into him all over the place.
Hey, get a load of these footprints. It looks like he ran right past here.
I'll bet those tracks lead us straight to the creeper.
What are we waiting for? Let's go.
It's fun to hear just their interactions. I also just love hearing Velma say Shaggy and Scooby.
It's a weird, like some sort of American accent that I can't really place.
People just don't talk like that anymore. Like that's
Shaggy.
Well, it's something like current Velma is Kate Micucci, and I think that's great casting because she just has like an interesting voice as well, and you just get to hear and she has kind of a Velma energy to her in general, so I like that. Like she's somebody who could play a live action Velma if 10 years ago. She'd be deemed too old for Velma.
She's like 40 now, so
Yes, yeah.
I don't think it's going to happen. But then we get the famous Hermit section of this cartoon.
Yeah, what a weird...
It reminded me of the cartoon we did for What a Cartoon earlier, Hermit Wren. Just like, there was lots of talk of hermits back in this era.
Well, I mean, Hanna-Barbera loves drawing a bearded old coot. Like, though the voice on this guy sounds like D. Bradley Baker. Like, it's really weird. Like, it's a time-traveling D. Bradley Baker doing this guy. But, but before that, right before that, they have to torture a dog. Like, it's so weird. I mean, I do have a little clip here because it wouldn't be a Scooby episode without a reference to a Scooby snack.
Footprints end at this gorge. The creeper must be in that cave.
Look, a rope and plank bridge over the gorge.
Like, what a shame. The planks have all been rolled up for the night. Well, back to the old ball shop.
Not so fast, Shaggy. Scooby can climb across the ropes and unroll the planks for us. Can't you, Scoob? Not even for a Scooby snack? It's a deal.
Go ahead, Scooby. A deal's a deal.
But that's not the deal. The chick ate the Scooby snack. Let Scooby eat a Scooby snack.
At least Scooby is not upset about this.
Nah, he's kind of whimpering.
He takes it in stride.
But also, it's just like when they go, "Come on, Scooby, you can do it." It's like this is torturing a dog. Like, this is a poor.
This is like one of the most legitimately dangerous situations Scooby's ever been in.
It's not a simple task, right?
Right, yeah. And the creeper is far less of a threat, honestly, than trying to balance on this.
This is all a red herring, right? Those are not the creeper's footprints. They just found another random pair of footprints.
They found a different weird-looking guy's heavy footprints that lead to his thing, and like it's this whole stuff with the hermit. It's really weird because somebody at the end should be like, and we thought it was the hermit, but we were wrong. Like once they leave the hermit here, they never mention him again.
And he's clearly dangerous. Freddie said, "Let's get out of here while we still can." Later.
I mean, they're creeped out by him. I mean, but he is just a lonely. Him going like, come back. Like that's just him. He's a lonely man. He never has any friends. That's all. But I also love in this clip with the hermit. It's the one time Shaggy doesn't want food in this episode.
You must stay for a while. It isn't often I have visitors.
I can see why.
What do you think, girls? He doesn't look like the creeper.
He looks worse. So that hermit disguise doesn't fool me. I think he is the creeper.
Go on. Take a taste. I insist. You lie?
Yuck. What is it?
It's the specialty of the cave. Squirrel stew with pickled bat wings and crabgrass roots. Here, have some more.
No, thanks. I just remembered I'm on a strict squirrel-free diet.
Remove.
Come back. Come back.
Come on, let's get out of here while we still can.
Come back. Come back.
Jeez.
More dramatic than it seems that it should be, really.
Yeah, he's not running after them.
They're just judging a weird old coot who, I mean, he's kind of annoying and trying to feed them his squirrel stew, but I think he's supposed to look like he has the body of the creeper as well, I guess. Like he has really long arms, too, and big feet. Also, Shaggy references the World War II propaganda of, was this trip really necessary?
Oh, okay, wow, damn.
That was on their little walk across the planks into there. And it's a rare Velma mistake. Velma's actually wrong. Velma usually doesn't make a wrong. She doesn't guess wrong on something. And here she's like, I'm sure that's the creeper. Like, that should be more Freddy making a stupid mistake like that.
I guess she never explains her reasons, right?
Yeah, I guess she's just like, what, the footprints let us here, and he looks like a weirdo, so it's the creeper. But
the creeper is known for chasing you, and this guy didn't, right?
Yeah. He's, honestly, again, just more filler. They This has second act problems. They just
it's a little bit saggy.
Well, what happens after the first chase? They find a chicken and then a hermit. Yeah, the old prospector.
I love this hermit character so much. He's got such a weird voice, such a weird design. He's a total non sequitur. I absolutely love it. It's so funny to me.
I love his voice. Like, come back. Like he's actually just very friendly. Like, you must stay. I made this. I was shocked they kind of approach it, but they don't do the joke of like, I would love to have you for dinner. Like,
I'm surprised they didn't do that.
So as they think that the creeper has been revealed, they head back to the mystery machine to get the cops, but the creeper's been waiting for a minute. And I love the drawing of the creeper behind the wheel of the mystery machine.
He's supposed to be getting bored in that van.
But that's smart thinking on Carswell's part. He's like, I've been chasing these kids. Eventually they're coming back to their car, so I'll just wait for them.
I say cut the brake lines. Let that figure it out, right?
He's not violent enough.
Yeah,
he should. There's lines he won't cross, and that's his mistake. If you're in for a penny, in for a pound, I say. And as the chase begins again, even Daphne goes like, here we go again, because it's just repeating the barn chase they had in the first act of this show.
Yeah, not a lot of new gags, except for the Velma, like, would you hit someone with glasses? And he goes for it, and then she kicks him in the shins.
That's actual good animation of him swiping her glasses, and she swipes it back and kicks him in the shins. Like, I like Velma being, aggressive. That's good too, not just a wilting flower who's scared of stuff. And in this second chase, I feel like it needs a song too, but it's just like, no, we used our song already. Can't do it. But they at least do the hallway gag of passing through things in different doorways. And also there's a weird joke of like Freddy being a klutz, like he trips over and causes an accident, which is kind of wrong for him.
And like Shaggy and Scooby are like riding different farm implements in different ways, which don't make them faster.
No, but
they're just having fun.
Yeah, it's just a quickie sight gag. And then another bit I noticed that does break from the formula. So they do the whole chase. They then all end up in a pile of hay together except for Scooby. This is different because normally it is the gang, usually led by Freddy, building some sort of contraption that then catches the bad guy, or they accidentally do something. But in this case, they just accidentally fall into a pile of hay, and it's Scooby who presses the button to bail them all up into hay.
How many kids died jumping into hay balers in 1970?
We'll end up in a funny position from this hay bale. It's like, no, it mangled all your limbs.
This is imitatable, as is Velma playing with fire later, and they would not do this. In 10 years, they wouldn't do it.
The sensors fell on they were off the ball here.
It's an attractive nuisance.
But yes, the hay baler is activated. Scooby catches all of them, including the creeper. And that's when it's time for the unmasking, which again, I was like, wow, Scooby does the unmasking because everybody else is tied up. It can't be Freddy or Velma. And the creeper is revealed.
Nice work, Scooby. You caught the creeper.
Now bail us out of these hay bales.
First thing first.
Zoinks!
It's Mr. Carswell, the bank president.
How about that?
I got your message and went right to Carswell's house, kids. Carswell wasn't there, but I found the bank guard tied up in the basement.
Old Carswell had a pretty slick scheme going for a while.
I'll say, since he was the last one to leave the bank every day, he would just fill his briefcase with money, relock the safe, and leave the bank as usual. Then, later that night, he would return disguised as the creeper and make it appear that some sort of a phantom was robbing the bank.
I like that the later they explain that the guard noticed something was up, so he installed a secret camera, and the secret camera is like a giant camera hanging off the wall pointed directly at the safe. I think there was a miscommunication between the writing and the animation, because that camera is not secret.
Yeah, it's, how small can an infrared camera be in 1970, I guess? But yeah, you're right. Well, and also, the photograph that turns out is not from the angle that the camera is placed in either. Like, it's more like the camera of the show is photographing him. But also, this whole sequence here, this plot twist really dates it because this deals with ancient photograph technology of printing them and everything.
I didn't get it how the flame heating up the paper showed the image, but again, it's old technology, so yeah.
guess it's like in the developing photographs rooms that I see like in old Spider-Man cartoons and whatnot, you know, the red room. But in this case, it's just heating it up and it changes, I suppose. We need photograph historians here to explain that to us.
The animation of him taking the money from the vault and then walking out is so funny to me. I don't know what it is about it, but he's just doing it so casually with a grin on his face and then just like strolling out. I don't know why it made me laugh so hard when I first watched it.
Such a stupid crime. Like, what if I put money in my briefcase?
Nobody's counting this money. Yeah, again, the savings and loan scams of the 70s into the 80s, that shows you the real dangers of a bank embezzlement. But Carswell smartly blamed it on a creeper instead of like, you know, poor people or immigrants stealing from him, as would happen in the 2008 bank scandals. But yes, the final clip I have here, the show would not be complete if a certain phrase wasn't said.
However, unknown to Carswell, the guard installed a concealed infrared camera which took a picture of him robbing the bank.
And then when he found out, he went after the guard to get the incriminating pictures.
And this is it. We told Carswell about this paper, and after we left, he must have figured out what it was.
And that's why he chased us trying to get the paper. Watch. The flame will tell.
There's the creeper. Well, I'll be. You kids have certainly wound up all the loose ends in this case. Blasted meddling kids.
Well, now that we're rid of the creeper, why don't we creep on down to the malt shop and join the party?
Like I'm ready. Hey, we got one passenger too many. I think you'd better take him back to his real mother, Scoob.
He doesn't say the full, you know, and I'd have gotten away with it too if it wasn't for those meddling kids and their dastardly dog.
I don't think anyone has ever said that on the show, though. I think it was a misremembrance.
Not the
like,
full thing,
that
yeah.
phrase was never said. Like the word meddling and kids was used, but never like, and I would have gotten away with it, ... I don't think that was ever actually said.
At least you get a blasted meddling kid.
Yeah, meddling is good.
I think, you know, for me and you, it was set up by Wayne's World. Wayne's World has the Scooby-Doo ending where I think that full sentence is said, which they even call the Scooby-Doo ending of their movie, which has no actual ending.
I prefer the Thelma and Louise ending.
But yeah, the reveal here too, it's the pattern of this. I'm still shocked that they were like, oh yeah, kids will sit through a 2-minute explanation of all of the clues and how it all fits together.
It's a good parlor scene. It also eats up time.
More often you have like Scooby and Shaggy doing some stupid thing surrounded by them, like, well, I know all of that, but what happened to the suction cups? Scooby, something like that. But in this case, it's abandoning a chick that thinks Scooby is his mother. Like, I was like, no, I think you own this chicken now. Like, it's you can't just leave it. It's been imprinted.
And he makes a bunch of new Scooby chickens when he shows up. They all hatch and become Scooby-Doo chickens.
He's leaving terror and heartbroken chicken in his waist.
Stealing children.
And I do like Freddy's line of like, speaking of creepers, we should creep on down to the malt shop.
Yeah, there's also that like weak laughter that Chris mentioned.
Oh yes,
it's like a very, very light laughter. Like I guess it was kind of funny.
They leave you with a bigger laugh usually on this episode, but they still have the kids go like Scooby, and the end and fade out. Again, it wouldn't fit the pattern if there wasn't a final laugh of going like, oh, Scooby. And then we get the credits with the reprise of the song just one more time.
The credits, I remember as a kid, because the credits start up and it's just the opening animation again, and you don't actually see credits until a good ways in, so you're like, is this a new episode starting? It'll fake me out every time.
You're right. I remember that disappointment when it's like, oh, it's not another one. Aw. Though if it was played in a marathon, then it would just be credits to the new one back to back. You'd have to put some bumper in between it to keep it free. But yeah, no, I mean, the song's so good, you got to hear it twice. That is a truly classic Scooby-Doo episode that hits pretty much everything it can. I guess Daphne doesn't get captured and Shaggy doesn't do a more involved dress up. But other than that, I think it hits pretty much every note you can hit in a Scooby-Doo episode.
I will say Daphne gets bailed, and that counts.
Yeah, you know what? That counts as a tie-up. You're right. Okay. For me, it was fun to go back to this because I think, you know, the Scooby-Doo show is warmly nostalgic for me now. There's so much other animation I'd watch before it, but I now get the feeling I had in the past of when, before the streaming age, when I would just turn on Cartoon Network, and if a Scooby-Doo was on, I'd be like, yeah, sure. What am I going to do for the next 2 hours? I may as well just watch it.
It's gotten me into the idea of watching some of the new stuff now that I'm like, oh man, I kind of like these tropes, and I bet the writing is way better in the modern Scoobs, as it was with like a pup named Scooby-Doo some years later. So yeah, I'm into it more than I was, and I have a great amount of affinity for these characters, having just watched the bottomless chasm of Scooby-Doo content that was available to me as a kid.
The current Scooby-Doo series going on right now on Boomerang is Scooby-Doo and Guess Who, where it's pretty much just a modern version of the new Scooby-Doo movies. And that definitely feels like they're trying to go after retro Scooby-Doo again, because it's the same exact setup where it's just half-hour episodes of them solving these classic mysteries, but now they have guest stars like Whoopi Goldberg and Ricky Gervais and Jim Gaffigan and stuff like that.
Yeah, I watched a couple of those. The Jim Gaffigan and Mark Hamill ones are really fun. They're intentional throwbacks, but that's part of the fun of it.
It reminds me of an early Cartoon Network thing called Night of the Living Do, and it had it was basically them like on the brink of Adult Swim happening. It was them doing their own like new Scooby-Doo episode with David Cross and Gary Coleman in it,
and the Big Bad Voodoo Daddy.
Yes,
right?
that's right.
Yeah.
Let's not forget about them.
Well, the shows now, they make them for people nostalgic like us. Like two of the direct-to-video movies they made, one was a sequel to Zombie Island, and one was a sequel to 13 Ghosts of Scooby-Doo. So we're now the nostalgic kids for it too. But yeah, no, that was a lot of fun.
I also really recommend, there was a couple years ago, there was an episode of Supernatural where the main characters get sucked into a Scooby-Doo episode, but it's completely animated like classic Scooby-Doo, and it's an actual classic Scooby-Doo episode where like I think they inherit a haunted house and have to stay in there for a night.
Ooh.
And it's great because in this episode, because like Sam and Dean get sucked into it, the monster becomes real, and it actually becomes like real murders are happening in this house, and the characters are realizing that all these things happening are real, and they're like, oh my god, this murder is real. This is real. Are there real ghosts? What's happening?
Oh man.
It's a really good episode.
I'll check that out.
So Kris, thanks for being on the show. Please tell everyone out there where they can find you online and what you're working on right now, keeping in mind that this is now, we're currently in early August, and when this goes out, it'll be early or mid-October?
Mid-October. This is another of our Halloween episodes. I should have said that up front. Like, we're doing this in October because it's Halloween time.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I am on Twitter at C_Dobbins. That's DOBBINS. Right now, I'm doing freelance work for BuzzFeed. So I do like character designs and character animation for some of their animated properties. I work on like Good Advice Cupcake and Weird Helga and stuff like that. I've done work in the past for like Ogden Blake Studios. I did a character design for our cartoon president. And right now I'm just trying to seek out like long-term full-time studio animation. So I have a portfolio. I have my demo reel. Everything's on Twitter. My website is cdobbinsart.com. So yeah, just follow me on Twitter and check out my stuff if you would like.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And yeah, I think, this won't be our last Scooby podcast. So I think, we'd love to have you back.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, this is a lot of fun. I love talking about Scooby-Doo.
Well, who knows? By the time we do our next Scooby-Doo thing, you could already be hired by Cartoon Network to do their next Scooby-Doo show. So
Scooby-Doo is one of the properties that I would love to work on in any official capacity. So I'll just keep making Scooby-Doo fan art and hoping people see it.
So thanks again to Kris Dobbins for being on the show. Be sure to check out all of their stuff online. And as for us, if you want to check out more of our stuff and get all these episodes 1 week ahead of time and ad-free, please go to patreon.com/TalkingSimpsons. And if you sign up there for $5 a month, you'll get just that, but also everything behind the paywall that we've been doing on Patreon for over 3 years now that will all immediately be available to you the second you sign up for $5 a month at patreon.com/TalkingSimpsons. That includes all of our limited miniseries, the most recent of which was Talking Mission Hill, and very, very soon, this month in October, we're rolling out Talking Futurama Season 2 Part 2, an exploration of Futurama Season 2's back half using the Talking Simpsons / What a Cartoon treatment, and that is only for $5 subscribers, and then we'll give you all the other existing Talking Futurama episodes as well, and over 100 bonus podcasts that you have not heard if you are not on the Patreon. And if you sign up for $10 a month at patreon.com/TalkingSimpsons, you get all the $5 stuff, but also access to one Megalon podcast once a month that is just for patrons of that level or higher. And what is that, Henry?
Bob, you're talking about the What a Cartoon Movie podcast, which you get to hear a sample of each month in the free feed. But if you wanted to hear the full podcast, often over 4 hours long, you got to go to the $10 level at patreon.com/Talking Simpsons. If you sign up, you will have now 2 years worth of a back catalog of What a Cartoon Movies, over 100 hours of exclusive podcasts, in addition to all of the miniseries and other $5 stuff you would also get if you go to $10 a month. This month, it's going to be something scary. It actually, at the time of this recording, has not even decided yet. It might be Scooby-Doo. It might be Coraline. Either way, you sign up this month, you'll get it and all of our previous ones, like last month's Aladdin's sequel, Return of Jafar, and tons more. Please check that out at patreon.com/Talking Simpsons.
So as for me, I've been one of the hosts, Bob Mackey. You can find me on Twitter as Bob Servo, and my other podcast, by the way, is Retronauts. That's a classic gaming podcast all about old video games. You can find that wherever you find podcasts, or go to patreon.com/Retronauts to sign up there for 2 exclusive episodes every month. Again, that is patreon.com/Retronauts. Henry, how about you?
Well, I've been your other host, Henry Gilbert, or as Scooby-Doo would say it, Henry Rilbert. And you can follow me on Twitter at HENEREYG. for all your Henry Gilbert updates. And if you'd like to stay in the loop for this podcast and its sister podcast, Talking Simpsons, please follow at Talk Simpsons Pod on Twitter. We'll keep you up to date with all the stuff coming out from the Talking Simpsons network of podcasts. Follow that on Twitter once more. That is at Talk Simpsons Pod.
Thanks so much for joining us, folks. We will see you next time for this month's free preview of the What a Cartoon Movie podcast, and we'll see you then.
Scooby-Dooby-Doo, where are you? We got some work to do now. Scooby-Dooby-Doo, where are you? We need some help from you now. Come on, Scooby-Doo, I see you, pretending you got a sliver. You're not fooling me, 'cause I can see the way you shake and shiver. You know we got